You there, show yourself.
Oh, I mean you no harm. I am on the trail of a man that passed this way.
I too seek a man on this road. Who are you tracking?
I am tracking Yasuke, the Black Samurai.
I too seek Yasuke. He killed my master and laid waste to our slave labor camp. Our entire gold mining operation was destroyed.
Oh, it has been many nights since the samurai, Yasuke, swept through our town. He defeated our guards and destroyed our opium den single-handedly.
He bedded my master's concubines and left them all with child.
He smashed our gambling ring and impregnated all of our prostitutes.
All of the concubines were, apparently, very eager to sleep with him.
The prostitutes, too. They did not charge.
There, that tea house. Do you see the shadow?
Yes, that's him. The biggest man in Japan. In more ways than one, apparently.
According to my master's concubines.
Let's attack him together.
Tiger uppercut.
Back up, jive turkeys. No one can sneak up on Yasuke.
You killed my master and bedded his wives.
All in a day's work, baby.
You drank all of our liquor and impregnated my wife.
Tell her I said hello. Karate chop.
Welcome back, everybody, to Delete Everything Podcast. Our invisible shinobi grappling hooking his way into your brain to secretly poison the dumb parts of it so that unknown, forgotten, and partial histories can flourish and bring prosperity to the land. I am your Shogun, Patrick Wall, and with me, as always, my Sengoku Daimyo,
Riley Bowen.
and we have a guest today, my chocolate samurai, Jevon.
Please don't use my government name.
He is back, baby. First guest ever, first repeat guest ever.
Yeah. That's pretty exciting.
Feels special.
Know, right?
Happy to have you back.
Thank you.
I know,
Thank
it's
you.
pretty
Thank
cool.
you. Thank you. Good to be back. Great to be back.
You guys are very familiar with pre-Edo period Japanese political structure, right?
I was just looking at that.
I understand Ed and Eddie Japanese historical structure.
Sengoku Daimyo would make you a Sengoku period feudal lord, subservient to me as your shogun, and provided my loyalties to the Emperor of Japan were intact, you would rule vast hereditary land holdings and vassals in whatever way I instructed you in the furtherance of the wishes of the emperor.
Wait a sec. How in this theoretical like historical context are you the one that gets elevated to like daimyo second?
I'm shogun.
You're shogun.
I'm shogun in this scenario.
Just because you decided?
No, that
what court do I take you to? Is there like an empirical like parliament?
No, baby. This is Sengoku era Japan. You bring your warriors to the field of battle, and we duke it out.
Well, can I pray to like a fox or something to like get you? And that was Riley's first disrespectful thing about Japan, he said.
So it begins.
Fuck.
Yeah.
I only got 2 more hours of this shit.
You remember this? You remember this, Jevon?
So
remember?
it begins.
Yeah, the Sengoku period was pretty civil war-y for a while, so we're going to get into that shortly.
As Guns N' Roses once said, we don't need no civil war.
Ooh. Ooh.
Oh, man.
Jeez. Okay.
We don't need no civil war.
I
No
didn't
more
need
coffee?
that impression of that terrible song.
What's the civil about war anyway? Okay, go ahead.
God.
Check, please.
What can I say that I haven't said at least, I don't know, dozens of times now? Thank you to those of you who have left reviews, ratings, comments, emails. We're into that. We like it. If you haven't done it yet, what are you waiting for, guys? Like, you're already there. Just tap on our show page and say something.
What do we have to do?
If we're on Spotify, you can leave a rating and comment on individual episodes. We regularly respond to those. If you look, you'll see people who commented and we comment back. So if you're on Audible, you can rate and review via our show page. If you're on Apple Podcasts, you can also rate and review via our show page. Those ratings and reviews help us out enormously. So if you like the show, if you like us, if you want to keep listening to our nonsense, show us some love. I promise you won't regret
Shogun
it.
us some love.
Shogun us some love. I know it's a pain in the tits to do it, but you only have to do it the one time, and then it's done. So
If you leave a 5-star rating, Yasuke will leave you a personal message.
Hey!
Yeah. I can't get a better offer than that on the table, y'all. So let's say also you have like a show topic, a little known historical tidbit that you
Shogun
think
topic.
more people should know about, and you don't feel like writing a whole fucking term paper about it. I know a couple of fucking idiot losers who enjoy writing book reports every week. So, and they interject dick jokes and all kinds of stuff, fun stuff in there too. So send us a message, deleteeverythingpodcast@gmail.com. Lastly, say you've reviewed us, say you've sent us an email. We're friends now, but you still don't feel fulfilled. If you want to support us even harder and you want to hear more of our silly takes on things, you can join us at patreon.com/deleteeverythingpodcast for weekly bonus episodes, other assorted nonsense. We're going to leave that for now. We'll meet back up on the ass end of the episode because we've got some cool shit to jump into right now.
Yeah, and I got some cool stuff on the Patreon front that we can talk about at the end.
Yeah, we will. You guys ready for some Japanese shit though?
Hey!
Jevon, you ready?
Karate chop.
Hell yeah. Smoke bomb. All right. So
mists of time.
Jesus. So this one's a tricky one. What we know about Yasuke only spans a few years. We know that he's not like a made up figure. He existed. There's documentation of his arrival in and subsequent life in Japan. But like I said, it was just a few years and then he kind of disappears. We don't know a lot about his early life. And when he disappears, like he's probably around like 27-ish. So like we literally have like 3 years of documentation on this guy ish, right? Of definitive, like this is definitely him.
Well, I think just the legend, the idea of like the Edo period, like African samurai, like, making your way to Japan, and then becoming an established samurai, and then disappearing by 27. Like, what kind of badass story?
You're gonna hear a lot of badass stories, by the way. So, like I said, we have little to go on, but the history of this period of Japan is super cool. The history of the daimyo that he served is super cool. And in spite of how tricky it can be to cover these areas of the world and times in history that we don't have any connection to, if you don't believe us, see episode 33, Pirate Queen Zhen Yisao. We struggled a little bit with.
It's hard to build like the diorama in your head of being a female Chinese pirate.
It's true. It's true.
So yeah,
that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Okay.
In the 1500s. So we're going to power through anyway, because, it's fun and we want to, and we've tasked ourselves with doing so. So we're just, whatever. Also, by the way, quick side note, this episode is my brother-in-law's birthday present. He doesn't know it. And I honestly don't know if he gives 3 shits about, foreign samurai in Sengoku period Japan, but, happy birthday, Andy.
Wait, hold on a second. Actually, sidebar on that sidebar.
Yeah.
So you're making this this is Andy's birthday present. But you also don't know if he gives a shit about this.
This is coming out on his birthday. And I'm just going to forward him the link and be like, here you go, happy birthday.
You're just completely making up the fact that it's his birthday present. It's coincidental.
This is more effort than a lot of his birthday presents people will put into. They put a lot of effort into
what's the connection with does he give a shit about samurai?
I don't know.
Happy birthday, Andy.
Let's ignore those guys. Andy, I just want to say happy birthday, my friend. Hope you enjoy your day. Karate chop.
He's going to be saying karate chop the whole episode.
That's my theme.
That's the shit. I love it.
That's my theme.
Okay. So
that's a t-shirt, actually.
Javon's
face with karate chop.
Yeah, Javon's face with one of those hats, like the Japanese like rice pickers. With the hats. We do Javon's face with the hat, and it just says karate chop. That's a good one. I like it.
My face on anything with anything sounds great to me. So yeah,
So one day Javon's going to be walking down the street. He's going to see some other fucking person he's never met before walking by him with his face on a t-shirt and be like, what the fuck?
No, he's got a karate chop.
No, I'll just
He's got
Steps in front of karate chop.
Yeah. Just step in front of him and look in his face and look at his shirt and look in his face and look at his shirt and then karate chop him.
Dude,
I'll tell him, hey, you can't sneak up on Jevon, motherfucker. Jive turkey.
Jive turkey. That kind of shit's fun. Like I was in New York recently, and I went to like a thing that a podcast that I listened to was putting on, this little like art show, and I saw one of the podcast hosts there in this like exhibit, and I was like, hey. That's a guy that I listened to, but there was no like personal connection at all.
Yeah, no.
Like,
didn't he have a sign up saying "Don't bother me" or something?
He literally had like like the artist is present, don't disturb. And I was like,
you're in a public space, you idiot.
Because I like relate so heavily to this guy's like talking all the time, and I wanted to be like, hey, but like there's no connection there at all.
You're best friends because I heard you on my
because I listened to you talk.
But listen,
because I recognize your voice.
Let me just say, were I ever to be in that same scenario, I have made a decision.
When, not if.
Right. Well, I don't know.
When,
I avoid public appearances already.
If anyone ever comes up to one of our events, they're like I was, and was just like, "Huh, this is cool," and not like the John David Chapman shooting John Lennon in the back equivalent.
I just in my
Mark
mind,
David Chapman. Fuck.
In my mind, I have chosen to be this person whose voice goes out to whomever wants to listen, and I'm showing my face in a public space. The audacity to be like, "Don't talk to me." Like, shut up.
Showing my face in a public space.
I'm showing my face in a public space. Anyway, back to the episode.
Good for you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you,
if your plant has
guys.
watered, let's plant some other seeds. I like that.
I like what you just said to me.
Gosh.
I always get the warm and fuzzies when Jevon's around.
Yeah.
All right, so
Back up, Jive turkey.
All right, in order to understand this whole story, we have to do a little bit of background on the history of Japan at this time, right? Sengoku period is the period directly before and overlapping to some degree the Edo period, right? Any listeners who are total fucking experts in Japanese history may know that Japan was an isolationist country for 260 something years. That period was the Edo period. Sengoku period sort of planted the seeds for the Edo period isolationism. And by the way, 265 years of peace and prosperity during what's considered to be Japan's golden age.
That's a good period of prosperity.
So under the Sakaku was the name for that policy, like those directives of self-isolationism. Peace and prosperity, yes. Still a military dictatorship. So
like standing armies, like every small feudal lord had like an army of like armed, highly trained killers, like ready to rock at any time.
In the wake of 150 years of civil war and different daimyo sort of vying for power and vying to sort of extend their lands by a little bit, peace is peace, right? Even if like now there's just one shogun and there's just one guy who controls everything. And his military police are in every single province of Japan, but you could just have like a rice farm and be okay and like live okay. You know what I mean? Like you didn't have to worry about civil war coming through, because every time these came through, the people who were in those provinces were extensions of their daimyo, right? That's the way that Japan operates, right? We are vassals of this lord, and we do what he wants. And so by extension, if you're at war with the lord, you are at war with everybody in the province just by extension. So towns, villages got burned to the fucking ground. Women and children fucking speared. I mean, it was. And
without the protection of one of those lords too, like you're always on the lookout for bandits might come through and like take all your shit or kill you, and then you've got to go to a neighboring town with the money you have and hire mercenaries, possibly seven samurai. You might have to hire, and then they come in and then they protect you from bandits. I saw that in a movie.
What was the name of the movie?
I think it's A Bug's Life, but it was bugs instead of Japan, or Magnificent Seven actually.
There it
is.
is.
Scorsese did that, right?
Yeah. Say it again.
Scorsese's
Magnificent Seven. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, but I mean, like I said, relatively, it was prosperous and it was peaceful and it was, like I said, considered to be Japan's golden age. So let's time machine back a lot bit to the 1400s, right? This was known as the Muromachi period.
Hold on, time machine, mist of time.
Chapter 2. So we're going back to the Muromachi period or the Ashikaga period, which is pre-Sengoku period, with a little bit of overlap, right? I'm only going this far back, and this is just a real quick far back, just to paint a bit of a picture vis-a-vis how we got to Sengoku with its various upheavals and civil wars, and then immediately to Edo with its relative peace and prosperity, right? Mm-hmm. So during the Muromachi period, or at least the portion that we're starting with, which is going to be 1454 is where we're starting, right? The Emperor of Japan is a man named Go Hanazono.
You gotta do the voice if you're gonna say it right. Go Hanazono.
Go Hanazono.
Yeah.
So the emperor at this point is like more of a ceremonial figure in Japan. Like the empire dates back to that, like Japan having an emperor, being an empire, dates back to 600 BCE.
Yeah, that's around the time of
around
the time of like Princess Mononoke.
Yeah. It dates way back, and there was a time.
This is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna drop cultural, like American
just anime references,
anime and Japanese movies, and
there will be plenty of opportunities. Trust me.
And we're just getting started.
Yeah, right. So yeah, it dates back to 600s BCE, and like I said, once upon a time, the emperors did rule, but that isn't the case anymore, right? So think like modern day King of England, right, where it's just kind of a figurehead.
Charlie?
There's a parliament and a prime minister and all that stuff.
King Chucky.
Yeah, so same situation. The emperor is more of a ceremonial religious figure than an actual ruler. The actual ruler of Japan is chosen by the emperor, kind of. And these are the guys we refer to as shoguns, right? They're the de facto leaders. They're effectively military dictators. And they have daimyo all throughout Japan who, like I said earlier, basically inherit their lands, right? Their lands are passed down to them through their family. And so Emperor Go Hanazono's shogun is the Ashikaga clan when we pick up our little story here in 1454, right? Ashikaga has been in charge of the shogunate at this point for about 120 years. So quick breakdown on the weakening of the shogunate and 150 years or so of Sengoku period. Yeah, quick.
It is real quick breakdown. Just intense, multiple, like hundreds of years of Japanese history.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's kind of our digs around here. Just let me give the breakdown real quick on Japan, which is like, so the majority of our listeners are American listeners, you know. Mm-hmm. We got some Canadian. Hey, we get Russian. We got some Russians recently.
We got a lot of Russians. Yeah. We've got a lot of England. We've got a lot of Canada.
So Carlin, our favorite historical podcaster other than ourselves, Dan Carlin has done many bits on Japanese history.
Yes,
but he always refers to like if you're coming from the West, like Japan itself, the culture of Japan is the most alien culture that you'll encounter on Earth.
It's very different
because
from ours.
So many things are at odds with the way that we as Westerners see, like hierarchical structure or honor codes or anything like that.
Well, and I kind of wrote this in a way where we kind of always keep that in mind. I feel like, you know, just like I tried to write these notes in a way where I try to stay true to like remember that this is how this culture works. You know what I mean? So. But yeah, so like this Sengoku period was the weakening of the shogunate, right? Before that, they were strong. They ruled Japan for better or worse. They kept the lid on everything. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But what happened, Sengoku period is also known in Japan as the era of the country at war. And this went on for 150 years. So
it's kind of like in the United States, we refer to like the Civil War.
Right. Yeah, and it was that, but for fucking a century and a half.
Okay. Little different.
Instead of 4 years. Yeah. It was.
Let me just say, I apologize for being so quiet. I'm actually learning so much from you guys right now. So I'm just kind of sitting back and listening, but go ahead.
We're gonna have plenty of time to sort of break it all down here too. Nice. So I'm just trying to get through this first part because then we get into the actual story, which is the really interesting and fun part. So
I mean, I want it to be well known here that while we're doing this, I also am very intrigued because I am a traditionally like masculine white male that likes Japanese shit.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
I like Japanese shit. I don't know how to get around it.
We talk about it all the time.
I find it off-putting.
I identify with half of what you just.
I just find it off-putting.
He's just a white guy. Jevon's actually white this whole time, guys.
I find it so off-putting in other middle-aged white men to like Japanese shit so much, but I'd like it. I can't.
It's pretty common.
I've specifically not had katanas in my house and shit. I'm like, that's fucking weird.
Yeah, that's kind of where
but
I draw
I want one.
Do you know how hard it was for me to be in Japan and not bring a fucking katana back? Do you understand the struggle that I had to go through to be like, no. But no. Oh well, but I mean, no.
You're like in your head. I know the rationale. It's like, I mean, it's an authentic. It's from Japan.
Yeah.
But that's even worse.
But
if
then
you hang that over your kitchen door or something, and people are like, "Oh shit, katana," and you're like, "I got that in Japan." That's even worse.
Well, that's kind of where I kept going back to. I was like, where am I going to put this when I get it home? Like, what am I going to do with this? Really, it's going to end up in a closet. And every time I look at it, I'm going to go, that was cool.
You know what you do with it?
I'd cut watermelons
every
in half
now
and
and then.
shit.
Every now and then, you take it out of the closet and you look at it and you half unsheath it. And you get this moment of one day, and then you close it and you put it back in the closet. That's what swords are for.
Every once in a while, I come home from the grocery store with 5 watermelons.
You'll hear somebody.
I was going to say, you got a stepbrother that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't.
You want to do karate in the garage?
Make some bunk beds and have space for activities.
So in the early 1400s, there is the fourth shogun, the fourth Ashikaga shogun. His name is Yoshimochi, right? Ashikaga Yoshimochi. Remember, Japanese names, the first name is in the back, and the family name is in the front.
Very different from us.
Yes, as different as you can get. What?
This is hard for me because I like silly voices, and
you want me to go?
No,
Ashikaga Yoshimochi.
Because in my head, all of these names sound like they're being said by Mojo Jojo from the Powerpuff Girls. Who was, I can't remember the guy's name, but who was a very famous Japanese voice actor as well.
I could do them all in the voice if you want.
Don't do that. That seems like a bit much.
It does?
It's a little,
I would do it for you.
What do they call that? Salt on the ice cream or some shit.
I just bought a whole fucking quart of salty caramel ice cream, so I don't know what you're talking about. All right, so this is, again, it's really brief, as fucking condensed as I can make it, breakdown of how the shogunate fucking fell apart that led to the Sengoku period, right? In the early 1400s, Ashikaga Yoshimochi is the fourth shogun. Before he dies, he passes the shogunate to his 18-year-old son, Yoshikazu, who rules for less than 2 years before he dies, right? Yoshimochi takes back the shogunate, but he has no other sons. He's not particularly healthy at this point, and he dies before he names a successor, right? So there's a shogunal deputy that decides that what the best thing to do here is to pass the title to one of Yoshimochi's 4 brothers. They do a lottery, which I don't know why, but they do a lottery, and his brother Yoshinori becomes the 6th shogun in 1429, right? Everybody with me, right?
Ready.
So Yoshinori is not super cool as a shogun. He wanted to strengthen the shogunate because we've had a few years of turmoil here, right? But in doing so, he was super oppressive and unpredictable and dictatorial. He tries to take land holdings and reassign them to more favorable people, just in an attempt to have better control over the daimyo. And obviously this is where we get in, we start having problems with the shogunate, right? They were struggling before. Now they're struggling and being assholes. Right. So as far as the daimyo are concerned, dude, fuck this guy. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So his 13 years as shogun were plagued with rebellions, uprisings. He was eventually assassinated because he was going to give. He had a samurai that had land holdings. Right. And then he made that samurai's cousin one of his concubines, and they had a son. And so he told the concubine's brother, so also a cousin of the land holding samurai, he was like, "Hey, do you want his land? Because I'll give you his land." And then that samurai found out and basically fucking staged an assassination, killed him. Right? That's how he went out.
Assassinations in Japan are cool.
Right?
Hell yeah.
So guess who becomes shogun after that? That concubine's son.
Type. Yeah,
he's next in line.
That lineage.
He's next in line.
This shit all just becomes that Shakespearean.
It is. It's
Richard
very
III fucking you kill these kids and then you kill this person and then you're in line and then your wife kills you and then she marries somebody else and then that's the kid.
Yep. So that concubine's son, Ashikaga Yoshikatsu, who is 8 years old at the time. Yoshikatsu is also fond of riding horses because he's fucking 8. And he dies less than a year in after falling from a horse.
God damn.
So that leaves his brother Yoshimasa to become the 8th shogun from 1449 to 1473, i.e. the 1454 mark where we started. I know this shit is fucking convoluted. Stick with me because I promise it makes understanding everything easier moving forward from here. So
actually,
can I just say, these guys laughed a second ago. I personally do not condone the death of 8-year-olds.
Oh, if you haven't listened to
Jevon
listened to this podcast, we advocate the murder of children all the time.
Okay, well,
we do it
you kill your adversary's children.
Yeah, if you have an enemy and you want to displace them from the throne or take their kingdom, you got to kill the kids too, or they're just going to come back.
Who did that start with? Where do we get that from?
Old
Nathaniel. The fucking uprising in the slave rebellion.
So I don't currently condone the death of 8-year-olds, but that may change.
Nathaniel.
God damn it! What's his name?
I keep wanting to say Hawthorne, but it's not Hawthorne.
Not Nate. It was a slave rebellion in America.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and it feels bad that we're still talking about this, and I don't know the gentleman's name.
God damn it!
Listen, we have to purge our brain every week so that we can put new.
We go into a fugue state when we record these. We don't. I won't even remember you were here until the episode drops.
So where we got that from was basically during the slave rebellion, they just killed everybody, including children. And I was like,
it's Nat Turner.
Nat Turner.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so I took a pause and I was like, you kind of have to, because if you leave those little white babies alive,
they're just gonna.
What are they gonna
They're gonna have the whole slave.
They're the next generation of slave holding whites,
and they're gonna be the worst.
You got to get them out.
They're not gonna be like, hey, we get why they did that. But since
you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Since then, we've just been like, hey, if you're gonna overthrow him,
it's come up a couple times.
Gotta kill the kid.
It's come up a couple times. You gotta kill your adversary's children.
Got a fresh start.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm not saying for fun.
No, you don't have to like it while you're doing it.
You don't have to like it.
It's better if you
don't have to
like
dislike it either.
Exactly. This is a gray area. It's just something. It's a necessity.
Okay.
Right.
I'm actually learning something because I haven't dug too much into Japanese history other than what I've learned from anime. Essentially, it's I know they had these giant titans at one time that would smash through town, and people would zip around on these lines and slice them with swords.
I think that was post Edo period.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was the very famous Japanese director Akira Kurosawa, who did the Seven Samurai that I referenced earlier. I actually have the tattoo of the movie The Seven Samurai because I'm a fucking film dork, but. He did a lot of,
and you're a white guy who likes Japanese.
And I'm a white guy who likes Japanese shit. I got a vague enough symbol that it looks vaguely Japanese, but I didn't get the kanji symbol that goes with this little thing. You. I didn't fucking get it, and I won't. He did a lot of Shakespeare adaptations as films, like Throne of Blood with my favorite Japanese actor whose name I can't fucking remember. Mm-hmm. He did Throne of Blood, which is like Macbeth, and he did Ron, which is King Lear, and a couple other ones. But I'm understanding now it's because all of that convoluted Shakespearean historical shit, but with like killing people for the lineage and all the struggle and the tragedy and stuff, that all just blends perfectly into Japanese history.
It does. It really does. And by the way,
Toshiro Mifune is that actor's name.
If you guys notice that our brains are a little logy today, I am operating on about an hour and a half of sleep. Riley has been out of town for 3 weeks. He just flew in last night. So, and
my CPAP machine is not working, so I have
Jevon's CPAP machine is on the fritz. But and we have literally 36 hours of recording, editing, and dropping this episode. So if you're listening to this episode the day that it drops, We recorded it 2 days ago.
Yeah, my work trip got extended an extra week. We thought we had plenty of cushion, and we don't have any cushion.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, so
My wife is not thrilled that I'm not at the beach with her right now.
I knew. Listen, when I was giving you the options of how we do this week, I was like, we can do this one, we can do this one, we can do this one.
You know how that conversation went.
I don't want you to catch hell from your wife after being out of town for 3 weeks. So think about it. And he was like, nah, I'll be there on Saturday.
I referenced this before. There's an episode of Jerry Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee where Jerry Seinfeld and John Oliver are sitting in a coffee shop, and Jerry Seinfeld says to John Oliver, he's like, hey, if you had a joke so funny that your wife would leave you, would you tell it? And John Oliver pauses for a second. He goes, is that funny? And they both look so sad.
Yeah.
I can't.
I remember this. And he said, yeah, I have to.
I can't not record the podcast.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry, babe.
Yeah. And John Oliver says, yeah, I would have to. We have to tell the joke.
You got to do it. Yeah.
You have to tell the joke.
So like, I've been gone 3 weeks. I understand that you want to spend some time with me. I got to record the podcast.
We got tomorrow, babe.
Every family has sacrifices.
You got to sacrifice.
Yeah, I get it.
So,
Makes sense.
All right. So let's jump back in here because we're almost through with the historical portion of getting to the portion of the historical thing that we're talking about.
We almost did the history.
Yeah. So
Thought this was almost over.
Has it been 2 hours yet? So it is 1454 now, right? Ashikaga Yoshimasa is the shogun, right? The 8th shogun. His reign as shogun, like his father, he tried to strengthen the shogunate, but he wasn't like quite as malevolent about it. He wasn't really doing the whole like, I'm taking your lands, I'm giving them to my homie. But he's also kind of fighting an uphill battle here, right? Like there have been 30 plus years of turmoil in the shogunate, and that's a lot of time for the daimyo to slowly but surely just like start practicing more autonomy, more independence. You know what I mean? So like as a result, he's played with a ton of rebellions and upheaval, just like his father. There's an incident in 1454 that's generally seen as the beginning of the Sengoku period. It's called the Kyotoku incident. It's one of several that just brought like general political upheaval, right? At this time period in Japan. Like I want to talk about all this stuff individually, but there just isn't. And we run into this, it feels like every episode. There just isn't time to go into like the Kyotoku incident is fucking crazy. Suffice to say, there's like a lot of juicy betrayals. There's a lot of different factions and different noble families taking sides on things like matters of succession. And
when you say juicy betrayals, do you mean like the betrayals that took place in the film Juice?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's exactly what I meant. Stupid.
Check, please.
So the Ashikaga shogunate, which has been in power for years, is slowly losing support amid all of this general upheaval, right? In the 30-ish years since Yoshimochi, that was the 4th shogunate that passed his reign on, and then his son died, and then he took it, and then he died without the successor. The first one we talked
and then
about.
fell off the horse? No.
That was like 3 down, 2 down.
Right.
The first one that we talked about, right? So since in the 30-ish years since he died without a successor, a lot of Japan's lords are like eyeballing a slice of the pie. Not necessarily to like be the shogun, not all of them. Some just want to be able to operate free of...
No one aspires to absolute power.
Right.
They just want a little more.
Right, you get there. You get
Nothing
there
wrong with
eventually.
that.
Just a bit, just a little more. Everyone just wants a little more
Right.
until eventually...
Because I'm not greedy.
Yeah, except I'm not greedy. It's just eventually there's only a little more left to take.
Right.
Yeah.
So, well, some of them just want to be able
call
to...
dibs.
Some of them just want to be able to operate free of the shogunate because typically the shogun has deputies in each province, like I talked about before, sort of acting as military police.
Mm.
But the Ashikaga clan has been struggling so much with each successive shogun that they lose more and more power and respect, right? And like we talked about, in this country, respect, it like is so ingrained in the fucking culture.
It's everything.
It's everything. Yeah.
That that's not good, man. Losing power and respect as the family that's supposed to police the entire country, it doesn't fucking take long before, you know, the cracks slowly start to widen.
Also, cards start to fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's actually, I think that's like the reference or the like the picture that's been used a million times for the collapsing of like the daimyo system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also like we think about how different this culture is from what we're used to.
Very.
But it's like human beings in general all have the Heigel's hierarchy of needs, right?
Yeah.
So like you got to have food, you got to have shelter, you got to have safety, right? So we all strive for these same things. It's just in this culture, respect is just as important,
just
if not
there,
more
right
important.
It's 1B.
Honor and respect is, it's all, dude, it's
like
crazy.
This is a culture that like wholeheartedly embraces stabbing yourself to death.
Because you lost honor.
Because you lost
While
honor,
the person who just beat you stands there and goes, yep, God.
Which is so fucking interesting because...
But it's really not that different from where we are today.
No, it's...
Little Kim told us. Money, power, respect.
That's it.
It's the key to life. It's the key to life.
And stabbing yourself in the belly if you lose honor.
Like
you lost me there.
The like form of protest that is like social suicide, gutting yourself in like at like a House of Parliament or some shit.
Yeah.
Like that is pretty alien, especially since you think of like honor and respect as like kind of an ephemeral need.
Yeah.
So it's solely philosophical.
But in our culture that falls away real quick when the chips are down.
Dude, I was listening to I think the St. Patrick's Day episode, and I said the coolest shit, and every time I hear it I'm like, that was really good.
You believe more in the sandwich than you do the cook?
Exactly.
I love that.
Exactly.
I love that.
What?
He said when the chips are down, you believe more in the sandwich than you do the cook. And I was like,
crickets.
But the reference is like you want what's right in front of you more than you care about like the supply line that's going to get you the next
or these
thing.
sort of ideas that you can't see.
Yeah, exactly. What you want is the solid thing that's going to feed you right now.
Right.
Instant gratification.
Yeah, whereas apparently in ancient Japan, no, it was much more like the cooks were very highly regarded. Sandwiches are secondary.
Because it's appreciation.
You might not see the cooks, but the cooks are watching. There's the painting, that the eyes in the painting are watching you. They're following you across the room.
They're a little more disciplined.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Okay. So from this point, 1450s, the Sengoku period lasts about 150 years. That is 150 years of all-out wars, attacks on the shogunate, jockeying for power,
Attacks on Titan.
like I said, betrayals, murders, sketchy successions, etc. Right? This is the period in popular culture now. This is the period where you see all the warrior men in Japan constantly having the katanas through their belts, right? Mm-hmm. Whether they're in armor or just walking the streets. I mean, if they're just in their kimono, they still have those fucking swords 24/7.
I need my piece.
They stay strapped. Yeah. They stay strapped. So
there's the Wild West out there.
Yeah.
That's why so many samurai stories have been adapted to Westerns. Look at Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven. It's the exact same story.
It's, I mean, it's
that's fun.
very much.
And then A Bug's Life, also the exact same story. That was my joke earlier. If nobody got that,
and now we're out.
It's the same.
Is it really?
Because dude, the ants in A Bug's Life, right? They're being attacked by the grasshoppers who are just coming in and taking most of their supplies, and they've got this like feudal system going on. And then Dave Foley's character, Flitwick or whatever the fuck his ant character is, goes out to find like warriors to help them, and they come across a troop of circus bugs that pose as warriors, but there's like 7 of them, and then they bring them back and they pose as these like heroes. It's fucking Seven Samurai.
That's funny.
What is the connection of their strength in numbers, though? That
was the whole thing.
That's the essence of the Bug's Life.
It's also kind of the thing in the Seven Samurai. So Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai was the idea to take like a cool Japanese story and make it like a Western set in Japan, right? There's this poor village that's getting attacked by these bandits. They need to hire warriors to help them. They don't have very much money. They meet one like cool noble warrior who's like, all right, we'll stretch this. I could probably get like 6 more guys, right? So they bring 6 seasoned warriors to the village, and then they train the villagers on how to defend themselves. And there's this epic like all out battle at the end. Pretty much everybody fucking dies, but eventually the battle's won. And then they make a Western out of that called the Magnificent Seven. And it's the same story. It's just like you got to unite the village, and then the Three Amigos follows that same pattern with Steve Martin and Martin Short. At the end, when they're all dressed up as the Amigos and they're fighting El Guapo.
Okay,
check, please.
I'm not wrong about any of this. This is all the same. These are the cultural ley lines.
I think what we're seeing now is the lack of discipline between the American culture and the Japanese.
That was Martin Short, not quite as good as like a samurai.
Riley is demonstrating that perfectly. If we were Japanese, this podcast would be over already. Whole episode, we would have covered all the history. No jokes. We don't need jokes.
Well, Listen,
We're not Japanese.
Listen, I'm talking about history too. It's just in a different context.
Okay.
This is my garbage bag of stuff. You like.
Okay, so once the Edo period, once we get into Edo period, that's still a thing with the katanas all the time. Less for constant wars and conflicts, more just to keep the peace. Once the Edo period is over, the men keep rocking katanas, much more ceremonial thing. It's just one of those traditions that keeps going until even the 1940s. World War II, you see pictures of Japanese World War II officers wearing katanas on their belt.
Well, that was one of the big things in the Japanese army during World War II.
It was just ceremonial.
It was carrying the samurai culture forward, even though it's from a far distant past.
Right.
At that time, all the samurai houses essentially had faded out.
Yeah, 100%.
So, if you had a samurai lineage, they were bankers or some shit. Yeah.
So after World War II, they kind of dropped the pretense on that, but it's just that warrior mentality, right? Keep the culture alive. Japan reveres culture.
Swords are cool.
As much, if not more, than any other country I can think of. They're very, very, very. That's another thing. It's honor and discipline. The culture is fucking huge. Keeping that culture alive. That's why there are so many fucking temples and castles and palaces and shit from fucking thousands of years ago, all throughout the country, because that's a very fucking important thing to them. So back to the Sengoku period, about 125 years after we left off. So we're now in the 1570s, specifically 1579, right? Basically 130-ish years of multiple provincial civil wars.
And only 14 years after the founding of St. Augustine, Florida.
Yeah. So imagine, Japan is basically the size of California, right? Square mileage wise, it's about the same size as California, right? Try and think of it like this,
You
right?
think they have a version of the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Wow.
Probably. I've heard enough Japanese music that I bet they do.
They're just California.
You had to do it, didn't you?
And that was that's fourth disrespect to Japan.
He said California.
I like Japanese shit. Get off my back.
So again, for the record, I do not condone the death of babies
or California
or what he just said.
So imagine California, same size as Japan, right? With 66 different provinces, and they're at fucking war for 150 years because the centralized power in charge is so fucking weak, corrupt, and shady that they can't do anything about it, right? There's 40, now they're prefectures, there's 47 prefectures, but back then they were provinces, 66 of them, right? Just constantly going.
Dude, that's crazy. Think about your Redwood Forest state warring with Oakland State.
Yeah. I know who wins that one.
You got the fucking Sonora Desert fucking fight with the LA clan. Yeah.
I know who wins that one too. Yeah, so it's against this backdrop, right? That a Portuguese vessel is sailing into port in Japan. That ship is loaded up with Chinese silk, books, learning scrolls, Chinese medicine, guns and ammunition, religious artifacts, and a fuck ton of Jesuit priests.
That's a big deal. It is not talked about very often, actually, that Japan was one of the earlier countries to have guns.
They were.
Because fucking China had gunpowder.
And it didn't take long for them to figure out how to... So
they were warrior culture.
Make it cool.
How do you kill people with
They
this?
weren't the first to manufacture them, but once they got them,
they
reverse engineered the shit out of them and immediately started improving them.
Yeah, it's Japan's shit. They might not come up with it, but they're going to make the best version. They're going to make
it way better.
And already being an established enclave warrior culture, you got the Chinese are
and disciplined as they are.
We got kind of a hand grenade thing because we got fireworks, and they're like, hey, but we can use that to kill people.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So the Portuguese were the first Europeans to find Japan, and this is the first episode where I have to sort of square with my shame as someone who is descended from these people. So yeah, they're the first to find Japan about 36 years earlier. They were the first European country to set foot on Japan. Right?
They pulled up. They're like, I can't believe there's nobody here. I can't believe there's this totally uninhabited island.
No, that's what they did here.
Yeah.
Where's Albuquerque?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I might have taken a wrong turn at Albuquerque.
Or Pismo Beach.
So the first recorded encounter and trade with the Portuguese and the Japanese, was in Tanegashima in 1443. That's one of the first islands off the coast of mainland Japan, kind of where that archipelago to Okinawa starts, right? like we talked about when we did the St. Patrick's Day episode. Japan's kind of the end of the world here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's one of the last places you find before it's just
like in general,
ocean
massively
forever.
endless. I mean, you got Micronesia, but like that's Micronesia.
But that's if you know where you're going.
You have to stumble on it.
Yeah. But even then, like if you stumble onto Micronesia amidst the vastest expanse of like
nothing
uninhabitable water,
exactly.
Yeah.
You got to just find it because if you're 1 degree off, you're going right past the motherfucker.
Which honestly,
for the next few months.
Yeah.
I know that the idea with Europe is that like the British or the Nords like had the Atlantic Ocean to go across, and it was like this vast expanse. But they always knew that there was another continent after that.
Yeah,
coming off
a long time.
Coming off the Japanese side, they'd look out over there and be like, "Oh no, that's an endless desert of water. There is nothing across there."
Yeah, absolutely. So like I
there's
said,
literally a month of sailing across that shit before you hit anything.
So naturally, it takes very little time for King John of Portugal to prioritize saving them souls over there. You know what I mean?
He was big on that.
I'm sure with zero coercion from the Pope, right?
Right.
Remember, we're like 10 years past Henry VIII breaking from the Catholic Church. So that he was excommunicated in 1534. Their first trade is in. I'm sorry.
I think it's worth noting. I had this thought given to me while I was on this trip. I was up in New England, and a guy posited the idea that like ancient Rome never really like fell the way we think of it traditionally. It just converted itself into the Holy Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah.
You know, so like when Catholicism or in the 1500s or the Pope sees like, hey, there's like a whole new country over there. Like the ancient like the Roman Empire urge is just like, let's take that. That's going to be us, right? We're going to take that.
We'll just evolve.
Yeah, let's just take that shit.
Just evolve.
So I misspoke. The first trade recorded between the Portuguese and the Japanese wasn't 1443. It was 1543. So that was my mistake.
What do you think they traded?
So 9 years after, we'll get into that.
Pokemon cards?
Yeah.
Nintendos?
9 years after Henry has...
Oh. The Portuguese sailor looking at a Nintendo like, oh. Finally, something to do.
Yeah, right. So yeah, like I said, 9 years after Henry III broke from the Catholic Church, so the Catholic Church is having a sort of an existential crisis here too, right? They're now going, we got to get out there, we got to convert some fucking souls, right? And I know, like we talked about this,
we got to convert some souls.
Yeah, we talked about this in last week's episode. Henry VIII largely kept a lot of the Catholic traditions and churches and everything like as it was. It wasn't until King Edward, his son, at the end of the 1540s that England really leans into Protestantism. So this is all sort of happening at the same time. This sort of existential crisis with the church and them finding Japan is all happening in a very narrow period of time.
As we discussed, Henry VIII, a radical dude. Invented the kickflip.
So the Portuguese and the Vatican start pushing Jesuit missionaries to go to work in Japan. They've already started in places like India and China, and it isn't long before these missionaries have converted a lot of people, right? Very quickly. Probably not so much because the Japanese were hungry for Catholic salvation, but more because Catholic salvation came with trade, things that they didn't have and couldn't make yet, like fucking guns. Think about 100 plus years of provincial civil wars, right? It's every daimyo for himself. And the ones who convert get guns and ammunition. Oh, yeah. It's like, the fucking tail wags the dog here. Like, that's fine. I'll become Catholic. Just give me that. Give me.
Cool.
There's a dude like fucking sieging my castle right now. Quickly. Yes. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Yes. Thank you. So quick credit real quick. A lot of this information came from one specific book. There's not a lot online about Yasuke. And there's a lot about this time period and most of the stuff that I've covered already. But like once we get into Yasuke, which is happening now, African Samurai, book by Thomas Lockley and Jeffrey Gerard, great fucking book. Awesome fucking book. So if you want to know more about specifics, because this is a watered down version, that's a good book. So like I said, this Portuguese merchant ship is pulling in July of 1579, loaded up with Jesuits and fucking swag, right? One of the men on this ship is Alessandro Valegnano. That's he's an Italian guy, right? He's a Jesuit priest, and he has been appointed visitor of the Jesuit missions in the Indies.
Why could you put the Italian stink on it just then, but you don't do the Japanese names like that?
Alessandro Valegnano.
They sound cool. I like this guy.
Yeah, because I can sound cool and not like a dick. Going like, Hideyoshi. I don't sound cool doing that. I do sound cool.
Can you say Alessandro?
Alessandro Valengano?
Yeah, can you say it like a Japanese guy?
Alessandro Valengano.
Which is how they addressed him.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's called him Al.
Yeah.
So he's been appointed visitor of the Jesuit missions in the Indies, which sounds like
Jesuit, like Sean Connery.
Jesuit. So it sounds like not that big of a deal, right? But he was appointed by the Pope, and the Indies, quote unquote, at the time meant the entirety of East Africa, everything south of that, everything southeast of that, Eastern Asia, the South Pacific, and everything and anything in that region in between that I didn't name specifically, right?
Director of Operations for the South Pacific. That sounds pretty impressive.
For a third of the globe.
That sounds pretty impressive.
In the entire continent of Africa?
The whole eastern side.
Appointed by the Pope.
So from the eastern side all the way to the fucking Pacific.
Damn.
Basically, that is his purview, right?
Man, if I could just land Director of Operations.
That job.
The eastern seaboard, or the western seaboard of Africa.
It's a third of the planet, dude.
Yeah.
So Valeniano's name might be like largely forgotten today, but his influence in the 1500s was fucking massive. He's the most important Catholic in Asia. And what type of person would a very important dude who controls a third of the planet hire to be his bodyguard? That's who we're finally going to talk about.
Oh, Yasuke?
Nice.
Yes.
That just kind of makes it even more badass. Like, it's like he wasn't working for a daimyo. He was a fucking...
No, well, eventually, but yeah. This is where we pick up Yasuke's story, right? So, we don't know a lot about his life prior to arriving in Japan.
Yeah, I haven't played Assassin's Creed Shadow yet, so I don't know anything about...
Yes, they are going to have a character, an NPC based off of Yasuke in the new Assassin's Creed.
No, I thought
game.
he was the guy.
Yeah, I don't know that he's named Yasuke. It might be. But there is a black samurai who's like an NPC that you get like missions and stuff.
Cool. All I know is that everything Assassin's Creed does is totally accurate. That's how I get my history.
All your history.
So I assume that they did a multicultural network of research that's going to reveal some things that I don't know yet.
Of course. This is just trash research compared to what you'll learn from Assassin's Creed.
Listen, Ezio Auditore.
Oh my God, stop.
He converted Italy completely. It was like the most important figure in history.
Okay, so.
Check, please.
Karate chop. Smoke bomb. So like I said, we don't know a ton about his life prior to arriving in Japan, including what his name was originally. Yasuke is not what he was born. We think that it was something like that, and then that was the easiest way to say his name in Japanese. But Yasuke is his Japanese name.
I would assume it's something that he earned.
Yes, that's what the daimyo that he ends up working for calls him, right?
Okay.
So,
I'm trying to think, like, if his original name sounded like Yasuke, what would that be?
I think I closed out the tab that I had because I like to do that.
Yasmin.
It was
Yasmin. It's Yasmin.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Yasmin. Oh no, Yasuke.
So
or maybe like they were like trying to like give him something, or be like, hey, what's your name? And he doesn't speak the language. He's like, that's okay.
That's fine. Yes,
it's okay.
Oh yeah, he was saying yes. That's okay. Oh,
Yasuke.
Oh, Yasuke. Sure, bud. We have some theories. There are a lot of them. I've hopefully whittled them to what's most likely to be true about his background. That being said, I'm not going to claim that any of this is 100% accurate because I can't, and neither can anyone else. So obviously Yasuke was born in Africa, possibly in modern day Mozambique, as a lot of the sources will tell you is most likely, but possibly, I tend to believe this one a bit more, in modern Ethiopia, or possibly along the banks of the Nile in modern Sudan. Based on his size and build, it would have to be someplace near water, which would provide access to protein-rich food, fertile soil for planting.
He's a big-ass dude, right?
He was a big-ass dude.
Yeah.
Mozambique sits on the coast of the Indian Ocean in Southeast Africa, and that's already being colonized by the Portuguese, which is why that's sort of the leading theory. Ethiopia is a little north on the coast of the Red Sea, and like I said, Sudan is on the Nile. So any of those places would be, like I said, fertile soil for planting. They'd have plenty of fish. They'd have domesticated cattle. So you'd have villages of people who were sort of living fine off the land there. I tend to not believe Mozambique because it's way further from where we are pretty sure he ended up, where he got sold.
Right.
Ethiopia and Sudan, those two second places I named, are much closer. Where he ends up is actually in Sudan along the Red Sea. Ethiopia would be just a little further south on the Red Sea. So I tend to believe one of those two. The historic,
I would follow that too, because the classical representation of Yasuke in like images is he's a real lanky guy. He's like
a very slender built,
slender,
tall, and slender, very built,
which kind of like follows the Ethiopian. Yeah.
So the historical likelihood here is that Yasuke's village was probably raided by slavers. All the 5 to 12-year-old children and the younger, unspoiled, quote unquote, girls would be led away to be sold, and anyone who didn't fall into that category was raped and murdered. Not necessarily both, not necessarily in that fucking order, right? Animals would all be slaughtered, crops would be burned. Basically, your premium pillage package, right?
Premium pillage package.
Premium pillage package.
Premium pillage package. Premium pillage package. Premium pillage package. That's a t-shirt right there.
So we think that Yasuke...
Available at Macy's.
Didn't you say that in the last episode about cabbage piss?
He
did. That's a throwback, man. What a cool callback. We think that Yasuke was probably between 10 and 12 at this time. And the reason why I was just saying I tend to believe the Ethiopia theory. Ethiopia had a warrior culture. And once you reached whatever the age was, which was like around 13, they started doing like the facial scarification to like shows you're a warrior.
Right.
So any of those guys that already had started facial scarification would have been fucking dead immediately, because those are the only guys that are going to put up a fight, right? So they're dead immediately. So he's probably under 13 from a warrior culture that's in a fertile area of Africa that's close enough to where they're going in Sudan, where the slave market is, because those slavers didn't tend to like feed these people as they, you just say if they fall by the fucking roadside, you spear them. Okay, now we got 20 instead of 21. Whatever. We're almost there, right? That's why Mozambique to me seems like too far away. That's a fucking far. Like if you look at the African coast, that's far from where he ended up. What's that?
I heard drive.
It's a far drive. Yeah,
that's a far drive. That's a rough one. This reminds me of the first episode of Samurai Jack, where Samurai Jack's mother spirits him away from the... Oh, also, I want to bring up... I fucked up earlier. The voice of Mojo Jojo was not a Japanese voice actor. It was actually the voice of Aku from Samurai Jack, which the Mojo Jojo voice actor was impersonating. That is a very, very famous Japanese actor who did the voiceover for Conan the Barbarian.
Okay.
You know this a voice.
Yeah.
Yes,
where the
Aiko,
fuck is that waitress with my check?
But in any case, Samurai Jack, after Aku kills his father or imprisons his father, I believe, is spirited away. Another Japanese reference. Spirited away to fight with all these other warriors and learn all these skills. And one of them is Ethiopia. It's where he learns his spears and horse riding, I think. No, horse riding is Arabia, but spears.
Wonderful. Great. So again, he would have been old enough that he would have already spent a lot of his youth training to fight. And that would have been more likely in Ethiopia than the largely peaceful shores of Portuguese Mozambique at the time. The Ethiopia story would also be more likely, that or the Sudan, like the Nile portion of the Sudan there, honestly, given his ultimate destination on the shores of the Red Sea in Suakin, Sudan, which is in northern Sudan, like the northern part of the Red Sea there, across from Saudi Arabia, right? That was a very large, very rich port city that at the time had a fucking thriving slave market, right? This is where Yasuke was more than likely sold into service to someone, not Valignano. We know where they linked up, right? We know when he became Valignano's bodyguard, right? So this would have been before that. It's important to contextualize slavery. I mentioned this before we started recording. At this time in history, we're still over 200 years before the height of the transatlantic slave trade, which is what we kind of think of today. And things were different in this period. For one, we talked about this in the Underground Railroad, one of the Underground Railroad series episodes. The word slave was kind of a catch-all term. Slaves at this time would be closer to how we would describe employees in the modern day. Remember we talked about how like even guys who would like pay their, you know, it would be somebody that they hired and they paid and they'd be like, that's my slave, right?
Indentured service.
Yeah.
Right. And this, and
it's not like you might get paid for it. You still can't just quit.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
also here on Delete
very
Everything.
modern day.
we've said this many times and we'll stand by it. Slavery bad.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but the difference is they had free time that they could
We're
spend.
anti-slavery.
Very much so. The difference being they had free time that they could spend as they chose. They had their own homes bought by their owner, I guess. They were allowed to have families, in exchange they were given homes, food, additional money. I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm trying to draw the distinction between this and the slavery that we think of in the Americas, that agricultural
it's a precursor
deep south.
to sharecropping.
Right.
Yeah. This is the differential between what you'd consider like old world slavery. Right, like the Romans.
This is the Roman concept of slavery,
and then what we had over on this side was chattel slavery. Right. A much. I don't know words. I'm not a qualifier. They're both bad, but ours was more of, I don't want to claim it. The American one was more like like an en masse, you could get a bunch of slaves in a package deal, and then in the Far East,
and then they made more slaves.
In the Far East, it'd be like, well, I need one to help me carry this stuff or write something, and
Well, one thing that does arbitrarily seem like a better situation.
You could also hire and fire slaves instead of just fucking executing them.
Almighty.
It'd be like, hey, you're out of my service. Away with you. I'm done.
One thing that does seem arbitrarily better as a situation, right, is that the time that of your conscription as a slave wasn't often one of lifelong service where you died a slave, right? It almost never included your next of kin, right? Your children were born free, and you could gain your freedom with service over time. Mm-hmm. Again, this is the Roman concept of slavery.
Yeah.
And, in a lot of places, this might have been better than trying to go it alone. Make your own fucking house, make your own money, make your own this, that, whatever the hell. I can't get a wife because how am I even going to meet anybody? Yep. So at the time, again, in this Roman concept of slavery, when there is a way out over time, this, like I said, you look at it kind of more like an employer where, okay, this guy's going to give me a house. He's going to give me money. I can spend my free time as I like. I can, get a wife, have kids. They're not slaves.
Sweet
and then
deal.
After a while, I've got some money saved up. I've already got the house. I've got this and that. And then I'm released from service. And now I've got a leg up.
An intro W-2 versus, versus
401k.
I think you need an I-9 for that one, actually.
401k with a 5% match. I mean, it's a sweet deal, guys.
Life not working out for you? Try slavery.
Again, I'm not here to say better or worse. I'm just trying to say what it is, as opposed to what we think of when we think chattel slavery. It's
it's the Mos Eisley version. If you go to the planet Tatooine,
oh my God.
It's like they're not doing crops, it's a sand planet, right? So when Anakin Skywalker and his mother Shmi
they were slaves. They were
enslaved by Watto, who was obviously not a racial stereotype of any kind.
No, not at all.
I'm not sure if you're speaking English.
So
you haven't seen The Phantom Menace?
Anakin Skywalker gets essentially won in a barter deal with Qui-Gon Jinn to go to the Jedi Council.
Only
but
because
Shmi Skywalker, she gets purchased and then marries the moisture farmer out there.
And by the way, Qui-Gon only did the deal because he could sense that the Force was strong with Anakin. So let's be honest. If he didn't sense that, he would have just been like, slave kid, get out of my face.
Yeah, no, and what are you going to do? You're going to save every slave? Come on.
I hear Jedi, so I think they're talking about Star Wars, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, Star Wars, yeah.
So as far as this whole conscription and earning your freedom, this was probably the case with Yasuke by the time he met Valignano in India, right? Odds are he had been bought in the Swakin slave market, again, around 10, 12 years old. Given his size and his build and, and sort of his age and everything, was trained to become a fighter, something he had probably already been doing for years and would have come naturally. And then used to that end in service of whomever purchased him until he was either freed or his master died, right? At which point he would have used his skills essentially as a fighting mercenary, where the more successful he was, the more he would have made money and other spoils of war, right?
And stay alive.
I mean, you do what you do.
We know that this is probably the case because when he steps off of this Portuguese vessel with Valignano and onto Japanese shores for the first time, he's got some pretty fucking impressive weaponry, right? They have records of what he had as weapons, right? He's holding an ornate spear with like the wavy blade and the bloodletting grooves, which would have been like a weapon of the time in India, another place that the Portuguese were colonizing and proselytizing. That's where he met and was hired by Valeriano. The Portuguese Jesuits were not allowed to have slaves, so we know he was hired by Valeriano. He was being paid, right?
Yeah, the idea of the warrior slave is a lot different than the Western idea of like chattel slavery as
right.
well. You know?
Yeah, 100%. So
it's like, these are my slaves. They could all kill me, and we give them weapons, and they hate me so fucking much.
He's also got an ornate curved dagger, like in a sheath, probably of like Arabic Middle Eastern influence. And that's in his waistband. So we know that he had some pretty cool weapons from different areas of the world, right? So we can surmise that Yasuke was purchased, trained as a child, brought across the Red Sea to the Middle East, conscripted into service of some fighting force, spent a decade plus doing that, some in service to a master, some of it as a mercenary. We don't really know the ratio there, but slowly making his way toward India, where at some point he caught Valeriano's eye and was offered a position as a bodyguard for probably a lot of money, right? This is, again, the most important guy for like a third of the planet.
And he sees this
he's
guy.
He's not
and
making.
He's like, oh shit,
Yeah.
This is the guy.
And yes, and Valeriano is. We're gonna get into Valeriano. He's a smart dude, right? So when this man Yasuke is standing on the shores of Japan, he is fucking turning some heads, right? He is somewhere between 6'2" and 6'4". Slender, muscular, jet black skin in a country where the average man is like 4'11", 5 foot.
Yeah.
And barely tanned at all. So
with the first pick in the 1497.
Yeah, he runs a 4.140. Valeriano, who's used to being the guy that everybody's looking at, right? As important as he is, he's not the feature on this beach. Like, people are like crowding around looking at this guy, right? And this is a port town in southern Japan. They've seen some Indian guys, they've seen some brown skinned guys, right? But
nothing like
not
this,
Yasuke,
baby.
right?
Nothing like this.
That's the hottest thing to hit Japan since.
Yeah,
no.
Javon's beaming right now.
Oh,
Like, please let me have some of his genetic code in me. Please let me have some of his.
You see this complexion.
Valeriano, by the way, he's totally okay with this because part of why he chose Yasuke is that Japan is not exactly Christian friendly, right? This small portion where they're at least pretending to be in exchange for trade and weapons. We don't know how, austere they were about this or how sincere they were about this, but they're getting trade and weapons. And by the way, the potential tax revenue that comes with trading the things that they buy and the weapons that they buy, right? So most of Japan is ardently anti-Christian. So Yasuke is always by Valeriano's side by design. Valeriano picked him because he is a fucking imposing figure.
I think
right?
I think something that's very interesting about that is Japan by its very nature historically has always been extremely xenophobic.
Not at this time. Not at this time.
No, I mean, like, by its very culture specifically, because they've been at war with China and Korea and all this shit, and they're an island nation. So, like, yeah, they're fighting in between themselves, but there's always, throughout the history of Japan, been like a stigma with the outside world coming into Japan. So, like,
xenophobic, yes. Racist, that happened more in the 1700s.
Right, yeah. So, like,
1800s.
I'm thinking more xenophobic in terms of, like, they don't want, like, an entire
outsiders.
Delegation of Koreans coming in.
Right.
Like, maybe we'll take a couple for trade.
Right.
But they're still very, skittish about the idea of new shit coming into Japan.
100%.
But this age of trade is coming in.
Right.
So, I think it's a very likely scenario that he brought Yasuke along as, like, a big difference. Like, look at how different this is. Get used to it because we're bringing weird shit.
He knows that Japan is largely anti-Christian.
Yeah.
Right? He knows how important he is. This is a man that was chosen because of how imposing of a figure he is. And he is by Valeriano's side 24/7.
Yeah, he's bringing the biggest gun he can carry.
He is the security detail for Valeriano specifically. None of these other Jesuits, fuck them.
That's badass.
Yeah. So Yasuke
makes a mark.
Yeah. Yasuke is around 23 at this time. In addition to my physical description of him and how well armed he is, he's also well dressed, well traveled, multilingual. Right? he is a more worldly man than 99% of the fucking population of this time.
Yeah, he's been off the entire coast of Africa into Asia and
That's
Japan.
awesome.
Fuck.
India, China, Middle East, his home country, now Japan, Macau. Like he has been around, right?
What makes him such a badass? Nothing surprises me.
Yeah,
all
he's
of these,
like 22 years old.
About 23. Yeah, we presume around 23. So, like, all of these things would have made him highly sought after as a bodyguard. You want to talk about fucking uniquely qualified, dude, in a historical era that was not particularly kind to, especially like what Yasuke does for a living. Right? You weren't a warrior for a long time before you got, all it takes is a scrape.
It's not exactly a growth
You catch
industry.
a scrape and it gets fucking infected. You don't have antibiotics. You're going to die slowly, So like.
You don't see a lot of old bodyguards.
No, not in the fucking 1500s.
Yeah.
So chances are Yasuke's also beyond thankful to be the fuck off of this ship because he knows that the plan is to be in Japan for a couple of years. And they've been on this vessel for the last 2 years, starting in Goa, India, where he was hired, stopping off in Malaysia, China, Macau, and now Japan. But they never really stayed in any of those places for more than a few months. And when you stay, like we talked about with the Mayflower, you get off the ship, but you get back on the ship to go to sleep.
Right, yeah.
You don't get a hotel room.
It's like, we've got our floating accommodations.
Yeah,
over
exactly.
There, yeah.
So he's been basically
it's like a
on
cruise
the ship
ship,
for 2 years.
It's like Carnival Cruise Lines. You pull up to
except for piss and shit pots and rats and trash and dead bodies.
It's like Carnival Cruise Line.
Yeah.
So these Jesuits are beyond thrilled that they're getting off of this fucking floating cesspit of trash and disease. By the way, Valignano's been on this ship for closer to 6 years.
Jeez.
He started in Rome, ported in Portugal, Mozambique, India before hiring Yasuke, and then from there they did that whole Malaysia, China, Macau, all that, right? So they know they're getting off and they're hanging out in Japan for 2 years at least, right? And so in spite of the turmoil of the times, you step off that, like, Japan is an insanely beautiful country.
Mm-hmm.
You step off that ship knowing I'm going to be here for 2 years. Thank God I don't have to get back on this ship. And there's all these beautiful snow-capped mountains. And I mean, just like, oh, okay, like this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of little short pygmies on the shore going, what is this guy? Like he's probably like, okay, what's up?
Is that a geisha?
Yeah.
Just Asian women as far as the eye can see.
Yeah. So, like I said, Yasuke is a fucking sight to behold, both in terms of size and skin color. This is pretty southern coastal Japan. So occasionally Indian, Arabic, North African sailors would not have been unheard of. They would have been kind of rare, but not unheard of. But Yasuke's skin wasn't brown. He's like documented, like he's fucking obsidian.
Right. Yeah.
Like he is ink black.
Yeah. There's some statues you can look up and stuff like that where it's like literally carved out of obsidian
and
like,
people thought because in Japanese art, a lot of the gods and demons were drawn with black skin.
Yeah.
And so people were like this giant god person.
Potentially
just
6'4". I mean, that's
6'2", 6'4".
That's special.
I had
and stocky and slender and carrying crazy ass fucking weapons.
I hadn't thought about it when I was writing the intro with the like he impregnated all of our wives, but like legitimately, what a panty dropper! Like just stepping into that city and like every woman going, oh my god.
Well, by the way, this is pre.
Tell her I said
this
hello.
is pre like.
Like, do you like how I just gave every Japanese woman like a Long Island Italian?
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
This is pre sort of sexually repressed Japan too.
Oh, so they fuck,
and they're very much like it wasn't until sort of the Confucian teachings took hold in Japan that they even really had, I guess, gender structure. They were very much like men, women equal. We both do shit. We both whatever. And if you feel like fucking, you fuck because fucking's pretty fun.
Hell
like,
yeah.
and so that was very much the attitude of Japan at this time. This was
what
before.
a great time to go to Japan.
That's what I'm
Hey, you.
Call you travel
You look
agent.
cool. Let's fuck. All right.
Okay.
So his skin color would have been completely unheard of. Likewise, Yasuke would not have been at all used to seeing normal citizens like standing here on the beach constantly armed, right? Japanese men of fighting age in this period, like I said, they stay strapped, right? They always have 2 swords at their waist. And that wasn't common in any of the places where Yasuke would have spent time, right? To just normal citizens standing there.
Shit, that also,
got a couple katanas on them.
That must have been a wildly tense interaction as
in
well.
In a place.
Like, walking into a village and seeing everyone, like, so he's like, oh shit, they're all armed. And everyone's armed already. And they see him and they're like, oh, fuck.
Also, additionally, in a place where his task is security for this very, very, very important man. His job... What's that?
For an intruder.
Yeah. His job is to analyze the security risks and make sure that his boss is safe, right?
The risks are
you're looking at the beach.
Single one of these
You're
people.
Looking at the beach and going, security risk, security risk, security risk. Oh, fuck.
That's just how they do it in Assassin's Creed, because you have this there's this mechanic where you can you get like a hawk, and you can see from its eyes and it'll lock on to all the different enemies so you can track them.
Yeah.
That's how he had to see.
So obviously...
totally historically accurate.
Obviously, like I said...
I don't think they're talking about Star Wars yet.
No. Like I said, Yasuke's whole job is assessing these security concerns. Valignano is a prime, as prime of an assassination target as imaginable, especially since through a series of political posturing moves, which, by the way, is a thing that the Jesuits have been doing in Japan since they got there. And now that Valignano's there, they're going to be doing much more. They changed portage last minute. They were supposed to land in Christian-friendly Nagasaki. Nagasaki ends up being, until the Jesuits are thrown out, the most Christian-friendly, the most Catholic-friendly part of Japan, right? They end up going, instead of Nagasaki, they go to the much smaller port of Koshinetsu. And this particular political posturing was all due to the Christian daimyo of Nagasaki not forcing his daughter into an arranged marriage with the lord of this port where they land, right?
Huh.
A kid, by the way, by the name of Horinobu Arima. Horinobu Arima. So it's essentially like a play ball or no weapons move by Valignano. They wanted the daimyo of Nagasaki to force his daughter to marry Arima, right? Over here in Koshinetsu.
And he's like, I'm not going to make
And he said, I'm not going to make her do that.
That's not how we do that shit.
Yeah.
Get a no.
And it was, and the whole marriage was going to be beneficial to the Jesuits, right? So they go, okay, you're not going to force her to marry him. That's fine. We're going to Koshinetsu. We're not landing in Nagasaki. We'll take our guns and shit and go over there, right?
Little moves like this is the reason that sometime later Japan shuts its borders down completely and
100%.
Executes every Christian in the nation.
And the Jesuits are entirely to blame for it.
Yeah.
So Valignano is a smart, educated dude.
Brutally executes.
He comes, oh God, we'll get into it.
Japanese brutality is something special.
Yeah, all the way into the Second World War. So, like I said, Valignano, smart, educated guy, comes from an aristocratic family. He's actually a former convict. He spent some time in jail after slashing some lady's face in Italy because of a disagreement, quote unquote. She probably didn't want to fuck him, and he wanted to fuck her, and he's like, "Fuck you!" Slashed her face.
I slash
your face.
This is pretty much par for the course for the Jesuits, right? The Jesuits
They're always cutting bitches' faces.
No, the whole Jesuit order was staffed with former soldiers and mercenaries who were known for not being concerned, like they didn't mind using force to achieve their goals. So like I said at the top, they would come in with gifts, medicine, silk, guns, etc. They would build schools and orphanages, churches, monasteries, and they would very much come in as like saving grace for a lot of people in this very war-torn era of Japanese history. But this was all in the name of conversion, and how do you get people away from, things like Shintoism, Buddhism was big in Japan by this point. The Confucian teachings are just starting there. On the bottom end, you start with, sort of these services and stuff, these orphanages and schools and stuff like that. You come in with basic necessities that people are starved for.
Your mission trip shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And then on the top end, you play politics and work your way through the system with things like arranged marriages that are beneficial to the Jesuits and the Catholic Church. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're kind of they're doing a lot of this fucking shit, which is why, like you mentioned, when Japan goes, fuck it, Christians need to get the fuck out of here. The Jesuits need to get the fuck out of here.
Mm-hmm.
This is their own doing, right?
Right. What's your favorite Confucian teaching?
Don't put me on the spot like that.
My favorite is Confucius say, "Man too often in doghouse, soon found in cat house."
Wow.
Ooh.
I don't think that's a real one, but
Fuck, you don't know. You don't fucking know.
I read that in his book.
It's
Confucius's big book of stuff.
It's called Confucius Speaks.
So, like I said, this is the whole thing that they're doing throughout this whole country, right? That's what Valignano is here to do. That's what the Jesuits, who have been there for a couple of decades at this point, are laying the groundwork for. And this is not new for this order at all. At this point in their less than 40-year history, right? They were founded in 1540. This ship is landing in 1579, so 39 years. They've been expelled from over 80 cities and villages for inserting themselves into regional politics, right? Doing shit like plotting against established governments and just shady shit, right? This is very much the Jesuit way. There's actually a quote from a Jesuit brother. I don't know if I had his name and just didn't write it down, or if I didn't have the name, but the quote was, "We come in like lambs and will rule like wolves." Napoleon.
They have a playbook.
Napoleon, 200 years after this all takes place, Napoleon is famous for saying, quote, "The Jesuits are a military organization, not a religious order." So make no fucking mistake, the moves that the Jesuits make are very much by design, and Valignano is very versed in how to move the pieces on the board, so to speak, right? So this change of port is not ideal for Yasuke because, he's tasked
not as protected.
He's tasked with protection,
region, yeah.
and we could have been in much safer Nagasaki. We are now in Koshinetsu, which, by the way, is actively at war.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Arima's castle is literally under attack while they're standing on this beach. There are troops from another clan, very anti-Catholic clan, surrounding his fucking castle.
So,
Anti-Catholic soldiers from a neighboring province.
Are there no other ports to go to?
Maybe.
This is obviously like a look at how big my dick is move.
I mean, the Portuguese are kind of new here, so maybe.
Not only is it like, we're not going to go to this prosperous protected port. It's like we're going to go to another one, and we're so hardcore that we'll just go to one that's at war right now.
But there's only so much you can do too, because there's along the coast of Japan right now, there's a lot of piracy and shit.
Yeah,
it's really just it's pretty close by, but it was just a move. Like, okay, you're not going to play ball. We'll go over here. So by the way, if we're keeping score here, Arima himself was fiercely anti-Catholic up until very recently, like not very long before this. Arima was at war with his Catholic father. So he's probably doing this for the guns. Right. He's actively at war.
Oh, because he's being fucking his castle surrounded. He's like, sure, whatever. Just come on down. Come on down. Bring your big guy. Bring your weapons. Bring your soldiers and such, and give us some guns. And we'll.
I want more context. He has a disagreement with his father.
His father's dead now. He was at war with his father, who was Catholic, and he was fiercely anti-Catholic.
He's at war with his father, who happens to be Catholic.
His father was Catholic. His father's dead now. He was at war. He is anti-Catholic.
Okay.
Now, a couple years later, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally Catholic. Come over here, bring your guns.
Oh yeah, hey.
I want to marry that girl from Nagasaki."
Yeah.
He's from New York apparently too.
Y'all.
Like I said, kind of try not to dive too deep into this. Essentially, like I said, Japan's at war for the last century or so. So the Jesuits are involving themselves in the politics of the country that they were really only recently invited to in the name of salvation. Some of the country's cool with that. Some are ardently opposed. And the provincial lines on the map are constantly moving. There's some warring monks in the picture. There's some pirates in the picture. There's all kinds of crazy shit going on, right?
Yeah.
Valignano's in the middle of this, and Yasuke is tasked with protecting him in this new place where everyone is constantly armed. The walls in people's houses are made of fucking paper. Like
every single person in the entire country knows martial arts. And I'm not saying like fucking kung fu like China, because they did a lot in China too, but mostly like that was like protected knowledge,
right.
And you had to like be part of an order. In Japan, it was just super commonplace to be proficient with sword play, or like stabs, spears, or bows and arrows. Like it was
they all look the same
because they were all these little. It's all the same. It's a copy of the same person. They all learn the same stuff. Yeah.
Oh my god. Chalk one up for Jevon. They all look the same.
That wasn't me.
Own it. Own it.
That wasn't you, huh?
Own it.
But yeah, I mean, like everybody in the entire country is going to have some, form of pertinent martial arts. Even women and children have like at least a little bit of like stabby knowledge.
Oh yeah.
Because there are all these little provincial towns.
Oh, Yasuke learns really quickly that women are proficient with like using the like having with the little sticks that they tie their hair up with, having sharp ends that they'll fucking kill a motherfucker.
Yeah, and there's a whole martial art attached with just like parasols, like the Japanese little like rice paper fans.
Yeah.
There's an entire martial art dedicated to that with obfuscation and those little hair ties.
Everybody in that country knows how to be deadly because that country is a dangerous place right now.
There were female ninjas that like knew how to kill people with their fucking the chopstick in their hair, their fan, and then the blade they had concealed in their sandal.
Right.
Like,
and poison.
And poison. Yeah.
This is this is a point in Japan's history where everybody knows how to be lethal because at any point the lord from the next province over can come through, and whether you're involved or not doesn't matter. You're part of this daimyo's province. We want this province. Everybody dies because you are an extension of your lord.
And also,
right? You are a vassal of this lord. You pay tribute to this lord. Your village is going to burn. You're going to die. Your wife's going to die. Your children are going to die.
Also, just like the world, like the modernist world, is coming into Japan at this exact time for the first time ever, really.
Only 40 years in.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, but like these guys are still walking to like the next village to trade or whatever, but they have to walk past like the forest of the massacred children or like the forest of like the demon lords or shit. Like this is still like, what am I trying to say here? Like swords and sorcery fantasy land in a lot of respects,
unpleasant place to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe not. A lot of it could have been fucking great. It's just you then have to get into a sword fight every now and then.
Everything shit could change like this. You mentioned seppuku earlier.
Yeah.
Frequently, when these wars would come into villages, right? Because all these villagers knew how to fight. If it looked like it was inevitable that everyone was going to die, before you committed seppuku, you slit the throats of your children and wife.
Well, yeah, you do,
and then you
so
either
they don't suffer.
Yeah, and then you either so they weren't raped and killed, and then you either get as many guys that are still alive to arm up and do a last ditch fucking knowing that you're gonna die, or you just seppuku. Back to Yasuke, right? He obviously at this point has been around much of the world. He understands the assignment here. He values new fighting styles, right? He's been to a lot of places that have their own individual fighting styles and had to fight those people. And how do you learn?
Just like Samurai Jack.
How do you best learn how to stop an attack? You learn how they do the attack, right?
Yeah.
So he's familiar with new weapons, all this shit. He very immediately wants to train in Japanese forms of combat, right?
Yeah, well, if you're already a warrior, you travel through all these places and you see the fucking hardcore discipline of samurai swordplay.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, fuck, yeah, teach me that one.
I need one of those wooden swords.
That's going to be a secret super move I bust out somewhere.
I mean, plus, if I'm a warrior, let me learn a new skill.
Yeah,
right.
Get that shit.
Right.
Yeah.
So he wastes zero time learning how to fight in the local style, right? Hand-to-hand stuff
This is
with
a cool
movie,
too. I know it's been done as an anime a million times, but like, this would be
a cool movie.
This would be a good like Denny Villeneuve movie, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the anime stuff that they've done with this is not true to form.
Yeah,
it's all weird,
wildly blown up. Yeah,
it's all weird, like weird future type shit. It's kind of cool. There's an anime on Netflix called Yasuke.
Yeah.
The only part of it that's like true to the history of it is like the first 5 minutes.
He was black.
Yeah, that's it. He's black.
And he's black. That's about it, right? So
let me show you the historical accuracy of an anime called Afro Samurai.
Right,
Yeah, exactly.
which who's also based on Yasuke.
Yeah, it follows the adventures of a samurai named Afro.
Right, in the
Those
future.
are Boondocks. I get it.
In a weird, like future Edo period mishmash.
Yeah. Actually, Afro Samurai is really fucking cool. Actually.
Afro Samurai is cool, but historically accurate.
Is
No,
Samurai Champloo black?
no,
No.
Is
He's
what?
got big hair.
no. You're thinking of a different thing.
Is he
Samurai
what?
Champloo is 2 guys.
Samurai what?
Samurai Champloo. It's an anime. It's a really cool one.
Okay.
The soundtrack for it
Cartoons.
is fucking badass.
Okay.
It's a very cool, like hip hop soundtrack. It's cool as fuck.
Gotta check it out.
Like I said, he doesn't waste any time learning how to fight, hand-to-hand stuff, katana stuff, naginata, which is the staff with the blade at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so he's doing all that cool shit, right? He's also overseeing the preparation of every fucking meal, having learned that poisoning is a common method of assassination in Japan. So he takes his job pretty fucking serious. And Valignano, despite being known as like this authoritarian taskmaster with all of his guys, with all the other Jesuits and stuff, he knows he's got to let his bodyguard do his job. So he sort of lets Yasuke kind of go and do the training and do the
He's
do
like,
the stuff.
get more badass.
Yeah,
That sounds
yeah,
great.
exactly. So
if you're going to be defending me in Japan, you might as well learn how to.
Yeah,
fight
he would
the
still
Japanese
task.
way,
He would still task him for stuff, but there was certainly like several parts of the day where it's like, okay, you go do your thing, right?
Montage. Go montage.
Yeah.
Go training montage with Kendo right now.
So, and by the way, Yasuke clearly does a good job because a year into this sojourn into Japan, through numerous trips around the surrounding areas, all like, because they're moving around. They're not just staying put, right? They're going and sort of proselytizing and making political moves. Hey, can we build a monastery here? Can we build an orphanage here? Can we, proselytize to your people and teach them the ways of God and save their souls through Christian salvation, right? They're moving around. A year in, Yasuke successfully keeps Valignano safe. There were no known assassination or kidnapping attempts even, and no other Jesuits were killed during this time that were with them. So obviously he's doing a pretty good job, right?
Patrick, you're doing a really good job.
Thanks.
What the world?
So one of the things that also happens, and this just shows like sort of Yasuke's mindset, is while Valignano is traveling around, meeting with all these local lords, establishing churches and seminaries, conducting mission business, that involves a lot of closed door meetings and a lot of sort of, sidebars and stuff like that.
Hand jobs.
Where Yasuke is just kind of standing around waiting. He's not doing any of the work in terms of like furtherance of the church. He's there as a bodyguard, right?
Mm-hmm. Carry weapons, look badass.
This dude's already lived in India, China, on Portuguese vessels, numerous places where he had to learn to communicate, right? Mm-hmm. In other words, do you fucking think that Yasuke isn't going to try and learn Japanese?
Of course he's going to learn how to learn Japanese.
Yeah, of course he is. And he actually becomes fairly proficient pretty quickly in that first year, right?
He's a brilliant young man.
He is. He's a very smart guy.
Badass, yeah.
And so it was like through
early 20s too, multilingual like that, yeah.
It was it lived all over the world. We live in a time where we can get around. None of us have done this.
Yeah.
Think about how hard
without being killed.
Right. Think about how hard traveling was. Think about how hard just being alive was. And this dude's 23, 24 years old. And he's
the past few weeks, I drove like 3,000 miles all around like New England and shit. If I had to like stop for like fucking highway robbery and sword fights all the time, I wouldn't have gotten anything done.
Well, none of the work was done. I was busy sword fighting.
Look, I'm sorry, I didn't get out of Long Island. I was just like, I had 3 sword fights this week.
Do I get hazard pay for that?
Gotta learn their language also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I barely even learned Long Island.
You kept saying wicked.
They kept saying bagel?
What does get out of mean?
Hey, you over there? Get out of here.
So it's through these conversations, learning Japanese and sort of mingling with the people, right? And having conversations, that Yasuke learns of the shinobi.
Ooh.
Fucking ninjas.
Oh shit. The saga continues. Part 2.
Yeah. The most feared warriors in Japan because they don't give a shit about their fucking lives.
They're scary as fuck. They will the shinobi historically there's in a huge chronicling of the shinobi, there is a very famous story of a fucking ninja that stayed in a toilet for like 4 days until stayed in like an outhouse, like in shit for days,
just to wait
to kill a daimyo specifically
until the daimyo came through and he killed him through his asshole.
We're gonna talk about the guy who hired that shinobi in this episode.
Oh shit.
Yeah, waited in there. And by the way, you know that shinobi probably ate poison and died in that toilet immediately after.
Oh yeah, probably.
Oh yeah.
They said he disappeared. They just didn't find him in the shit
swamp. No.
The shit swamp.
Well, he had a mission.
He had a mission. So a lot of people in Japan at this time don't believe that that shinobi are even human. They think that they're like ghosts that just appear and disappear as at will, you know?
Yeah.
That's how they act.
So, you know, another thing to consider in his protection duties, I guess.
Jeez, poor guy.
This shit just keeps getting harder.
Yeah, fucking Jesus. Yeah, think about that. It's like you have to like check the outhouse every time. Be like, are there fucking ninja ghosts in here?
Yeah. He also consistently hears a name, Oda Nobunaga, right?
Oh, that's very famous.
Very famous. Nobunaga is one of a few daimyo trying to unite Japan at this point, right? Among those few, he's considered the most influential. He's a very unconventional guy. He surrounds himself with people that most self-respecting, powerful lords in Japan at this time wouldn't surround themselves with. But I mean, I guess that's fucking showbiz if you're trying to reunify a country, right? Mm-hmm. He is also the person who hired that shinobi to kill that daimyo by plunging a fucking katana up his ass.
Yeah, that's what you do.
Jeez.
That was rumored to be Oda Nobunaga.
The shinobi are very, very scary, as evidenced in the completely historically accurate film The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. Everybody knows that ninja sequence is the best part of the movie.
It was pretty cool.
It was pretty fucking cool.
Here.
It was pretty cool.
Here.
You ever think of like, sorry, Last Samurai? You know, you got like the 90s and early 2000s dude movies. You got like Gladiator, Braveheart, and shit. Last Samurai, like kind of
it was up there.
It kind of clips to the end of that run.
Yeah,
of like
great fucking movie,
like
though.
Historical epic fucking dude movies.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, credit where credit's due. It was a cool fucking movie.
It's solid.
It was a cool movie.
Awesome movie.
Yeah.
Sake. Yeah, that's my quote from that movie.
Yeah, and that chick that he bones is hottie.
Yeah,
or was at least. You know, it's like a 20-something-year-old movie at this point. I feel like
she's Japanese. She's probably still.
I still hit it.
She's probably still looks like she's
Japanese,
20.
She probably looks amazing. Yeah.
So, by the way, I don't want to paint Nobunaga. I know he's like remembered as this great unifier, influential guy. Like he was not some angelic figure, right? I want to make sure.
I never assumed he was.
I just want to make sure we don't prematurely put this dude on a fucking pedestal. You mean
the guy who hired the asshole shit ninja?
Yeah, exactly. I never assumed he was.
That's a choice. That's like, hey, this is the best tactical decision. But you know that shinobi had to be like, there's another one, right? Like I could do it. I could wait somewhere.
No, he's a powerful daimyo in Kyoto, the capital of Japan at this point, right? A city that has had a ton of bloody battles, shit burned to the ground, people killed in the streets in the last 100 years of civil war. You don't end up controlling this city and having the power and respect and retainers and other provinces or provinces of Japan without getting your fucking hands good and dirty, right?
Oh, and everything else, Jesus.
And
apparently.
Listen, ends justify the means. He's a fucking warlord, right? The ends justify the means. I'm trying to reunify. Some people are going to have to die. Sorry.
That's what it is. You got to kill the kids.
Yeah. You got to kill the kids.
He's a warlord.
But again, so Yasuke keeps hearing this name. Naturally, Valignano's goal of converting Japan in its entirety, like Kyoto and Nobunaga, are at the number one spot on the list of people we gotta meet, and people we gotta convince to let us open a thing, let us do a thing, let us be involved, right? So while Valignano's maneuvering and trying to make his impact in southwestern Japan, he's surprised when a messenger comes with a letter from Oda Nobunaga requesting his presence. He had thought that this was going to be a much more sales pitchy thing. He thought it was going to take longer. You know, they're a year in, and then he just gets this letter. Nobunaga wants to see you.
Ooh.
You know, or this messenger, right?
Getting called up to the top floor, kid.
Yeah. And Nobunaga wants to see him immediately. So whether that's good news or bad news, he doesn't fucking know, right?
Yeah, it's usually bad news.
Yeah.
Nobunaga was not a converted Catholic. He was, quote unquote, an adherent to Buddhist philosophies, but he also claimed to not believe in Buddha or any other god. He was probably atheist. He did some praying at the temples, just sort of, I think, as like more of a... As
we've discussed before, most of the great powerful
ceremonial
men,
type.
Yeah. Most of the powerful men in history that like really control the tide of time and history, they use whatever religion is at their convenience for the most part. Like whatever's the like Henry VIII, he separates from the Catholic Church because they're fucking with him
he wants to fuck.
Yeah, and
because he wants to fuck chicks.
In general, I mean, look at our own president at the moment. He just seems to kind of like pop into church whenever it's like it's not. It's whatever is relevant.
I mean, in theory, if I'm at the top, I can't pray to someone higher than me.
Exactly. Because you know what? Hey, I just want a little bit more.
Well, so when he's doing this sort of praying at temples and stuff like that, it's probably more going through the motions type shit. You know what I mean? Or putting on an appearance.
Thing. You do the incense,
right?
And you bring the
tea service and all that,
the whole thing, and you fucking pray to the fox.
So I mean, we do know is that he definitely did not believe in a lot of the Buddhist taboos, right? Case in point, he killed thousands of warring Buddhist monks.
Right.
Oh, wow.
At a time when the taboo was if you killed a monk, you'd be cursed for 7 generations.
Yeah, that's a lot of generations.
The generations. So he didn't give a shit. He killed thousands of them. By all accounts, he seemed to be pretty open to people practicing whatever religion they wanted, which is good for Valignano, right? Mm. On the other hand, he was not tolerant of religious organizations trying to play their hand in influencing politics. See thousands of dead monks. So bad for Valignano. So at any rate, Valignano, Yasuke, and a bunch of Jesuits, converted Japanese commoners who were sort of helping with the conversions, choir children, etc., start their procession toward Kyoto, right? This is a long trip, and although Nobunaga has now conquered most of Honshu, which is the main island of Japan.
Yeah, sleepy little island.
The big island.
Honshu.
Jesus Christ. There are still outliers.
Please.
There are still
that was a fucking solid gold joke, and everyone knows it.
There are still outliers on Honshu, right? There's still areas that have not been completely conquered, and most of those are along the coast, and there are a lot of those in between that area of like Nagasaki and Kyoto where they want to go, right?
Gotcha.
A land passage is impossible. They'll get killed by anti-Catholic forces, right? So they end up paying pirates to escort them along the coast to get them to Kyoto, and then get them like the shore nearest Kyoto, because Kyoto's inland, and then they walk the rest of the way in their little fucking procession with like, they have like kids with like fake angel wings singing songs and stuff.
That's
1580 or 81. I think it might have been 81.
God, it would just be.
I think we're almost 2 years in Japan here.
Not too terribly off from the time when, say, they could have hired like an off-track female pirate from China.
Oh,
it's like the same timeline. They could have hired.
One of them. The South China Sea is not that far away.
I was building the movie in my head, man.
Yeah. So
we did a previous episode.
About a lady pirate in China, who is badass.
Then maybe she and Yasuke get involved.
She's already got some babies with her husband and with her husband's adopted son.
There's
got all kinds of babies
in there.
It's like an original Love and Basketball. I like it.
Yes, that's just like Love and Basketball. That's exactly.
Oh my god.
Omar Epps.
So when they arrive in Kyoto, right? When Valignano and this big procession with the kids with the fake angel wings singing songs, and they've got Valignano on like one of those little what do they call them? Where you carry him?
The little lifts.
The basket deal.
No, he's like riding on top of the.
Well, they carry him.
Everybody's carrying him.
They carry him.
He's on
the little poles that go through, and
I don't remember what it's called. It's in my head somewhere. I just can't think of it.
A cart, a slave cart,
yes,
a basket,
a rickshaw with no wheels.
So when they arrive in Kyoto, oh boy, remember when I said that the people in Koshinetsu and Nagasaki would have seen Indian and North African sailors?
Yeah,
that was not the case in inland Kyoto.
Oh, I'll bet.
Oh yeah, it's not a lot of travel, not a lot of ships coming through.
Yasuke's presence literally caused a fucking riot.
Yeah.
Oof.
A god came down to Earth.
Yeah, it's a god walking through.
A god came down to Earth.
Thousands of people were already in Kyoto from outlying areas because Nobunaga was having some sort of like thing going on, some sort of fair or something. I don't know. There was like an event happening in Kyoto. So there were thousands of people. So not just the Kyoto people who were a little bit more metropolitan and savvy, but like some backwater ass people that just happened to be in Kyoto from even further inland, see this giant obsidian god man walking through the streets with choirs of children and a guy being carried on an ornate fucking chair. And they're like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, I was going to say, that seems like the origins of the fuck.
Thousands of people mob this scene and are grabbing at Yasuke. He gets separated from them.
Ooh.
He has no choice but to run because he's going to get torn apart by and trampled by thousands of fucking people. Like, there is this whole scene that happens where he is running through the streets of Kyoto with a crowd of 1,000 people chasing him. People climbing,
everyone armed with swords.
People climbing up on the roofs of houses to see him. Like a one house collapsed because too many people got on top. Like, it was fucking pandemonium. This motherfucker had to run for his life. At some point while he's running through Kyoto, he finds his way to the local Jesuit church where he ends up finding his procession. And they have to literally bar the fucking doors because people are trying to get in. They're like closing all the window slats, barring the doors, holding the fucking doors, trying to like not to let these people bash in, and just crazy, unruly crowd that's like, oh my God, a God, I have to touch it. Like, craziness, right?
That's wild.
Yeah. So
reminds me of the time I went to Applebee's.
That $14.99 deal, let me tell you.
Every time.
You want to talk about a stampede, man.
Every time.
So clearly while this is going on, word gets over to Nobunaga that they've arrived amid all this craziness. His castle in Kyoto is like 5 minutes from the Jesuit church, right? Where they're all holed up. And 1,000 people are fucking clamoring to get in, right?
Like the fucking Walking Dead. Just
yeah, dude.
Slapping at the church door.
So he hears that they've arrived, and he sends his guards over to clear the crowd, right? So they're inside barring the doors. They hear this fucking commotion outside. It kind of dies down, and then they hear bum, 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 like somebody, announcing that they're there.
Right.
They open the doors, and sort of there's just people strewn around the ground. I don't think dead, just the ones who wouldn't listen got their asses beat.
Right.
And just people running away, and it's all dusty and shit.
Maybe like one dead guy.
Yeah, maybe one or two. Yeah. Once the dust settles, they come in. Jesuit priests and everyone who had been trying to keep this crowd from destroying the building are all like trying to make themselves fucking presentable. And one of the guards says, Oda Nobunaga will see him, right? One of the priests that's there translating, he's been there for a while. He speaks Japanese very well. He's translating. He took that to mean Valignano.
Oh.
Naturally, right? Fucking naturally. He's the guy, right?
Not a good translator.
So he says, yes, Father Valignano and I have an audience. Before he finishes his sentence, the guard cuts him off and says, no, him, and points to Yasuke.
I pulled a face. I did like an appreciative face. Can't tell that on the radio. You gotta describe those.
He says, His Highness requests this man's presence. He desires to see what disturbs his peace.
Damn, that's a call from on high.
Yeah. Imagine fucking Valignano's ego at this point. This guy is very self-important and just all important, really, at this point in time. And it's just like, yes, we have an audience, and he's trying to make himself right. And the guard's like, no, him. Your fucking bodyguard. Nobunaga wants to see him.
Well, what about me?
Yeah. So
I can see that's sowing a little seed of jealousy. Like,
So
we're going into season 2 of this this series now. Like, oh shit.
So Yasuke has to get fresh clothes. Not easy, given his fucking size and where he is.
Right.
Yeah.
Leave his weapons behind, something he probably hasn't done in over a fucking decade, and leave with his Jesuit guide, Father Organtino.
What's he gonna wear? Like a fucking traditional kimono or
they
something?
They just threw some shit together.
Here's like a bolt of cloth.
Just wrap
that shit on.
I want y'all to see all of it.
What's he gonna wear? Nothing.
All of it.
So this is what disturbs your peace, motherfucker.
Exactly.
Just swinging, just swanging.
And your bitches.
Hey, was this our first dick joke today?
That was This
is our first dick joke. Hey.
No music?
This is a piece.
Okay.
Hold on.
The mists of time. Yasuke's dead.
I need a little more bass.
That's as low as it goes.
Chapter 3. All right. So, like I said, he's got to leave his weapons. Fucking hell. I'm going to throw the dildo at you. He's got to leave his weapons. He's got to get some fucking clothes that fit him. And he's got to leave with this Jesuit guide, Father Organtino, who's an Italian. That's the one that was translating. He's been there for a while, right? He's actually got a relationship with Nobunaga. So Father Organtino says, I'll go with you to translate and all this shit, right? So they have to do all this shit really fucking quickly so as not to upset Nobunaga, who's not a fucking patient guy.
Right.
You know,
you got like 45 minutes from the time he dispatched those guys to get back there. He's gonna get pissed.
He's the most.
Yeah, I said it. You need to make it happen.
He's the most important guy in the country. Fuck Valignano. Nobunaga is the most important guy in this fucking country. So he's like, bring him back.
Yeah, I bet you like Nobunaga's legend as being so like important and renowned. Anyway, like the people in Kyoto, was it?
Mm-hmm.
The people in Kyoto are like, yeah, we're already living in like essentially a realm with like a living god at the top of this mountain. And then a fucking actual god comes in and they're like, oh shit, he's probably here to see Nobunaga.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, Kyoto, which was very war-torn, has been, since Nobunaga got in there about 10 years prior, has been peaceful. The people there are like, fuck yeah, we like this guy. Like, most people like Nobunaga.
He's got some good ideas.
People
like stability.
Like maybe villagers shouldn't be hacked to pieces by bandits.
He was very even-handed with his governance. I'll say that. Again, you got to look at it in the context of all these fucking 100+ years of civil war, and sometimes this guy was on top. Sometimes this guy was on top. Now you finally got a guy who's trying to unify. Yes, does he use some shitty tactics and brutal measures?
Shitty tactics, get it?
One very shitty tactic in particular? Yes, but in terms of his governance, he was known to be well-liked, to be very even-handed, to not be like this just crazy, power-mad fucking figure, right?
Right.
So, yeah, people like Oda Nobunaga. He's not a particularly patient dude, but, you know, whatever. Get this motherfucker over here, please. So, yeah, I mean, by the way, without getting into too many stories about Nobunaga, in addition to him being remembered as the great unifier of Japan, he has some other nicknames, specifically Demon Daimyo and Demon King of the Sixth Heaven.
Hell yeah.
He gave himself that name.
I mean,
I like that shit.
That's awesome.
I like that shit a lot. As a guy who likes Japanese shit.
Look at the tattoo of that.
Demon King of the Sixth Heaven
is good.
Such a cool name.
Yeah.
Arbitrarily badass names. Maybe not the name of someone that you've been summoned to stand for after causing this big ass commotion. Maybe that's not the nickname you want. The guy who's like, come here. You have to go. You made this big commotion. Now I gotta go see it.
Who am I going to go see again? It's like, we got to take it and see
the
Demon King of the Sixth Heaven.
Oh, Demon King of the Sixth Heaven. Okay, great. Yeah, okay, cool.
Well,
yeah,
kind
cool.
of busy.
And by the way, you don't have shit to give him, as is customary gift in Japan at this point, which Yasuke already knows. You're wearing some fucking ill-fitted hand-me-down bullshit.
Demon Daimyo sounds like an anime distributor company from the 90s.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, that is cool.
Coming this year from Demon Daimyo.
Daimyo sounds like a Japanese metal band.
Yeah. Evangelion 6. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah, Demon Daimyo.
So again, I don't give a shit how much of a badass Yasuke is. That had to be a fucking stressful walk, as like the priest who's escorting you is trying to fill you in on as much as possible about this dude. Like I said, it's a 5-minute walk from the church to Nobunaga's castle. So
he'll walk there walking slowly. He's like, okay, so
Organtino's got to be talking real fast.
So all right, they call him the Demon Daimyo. He had this guy stabbed in his asshole. He's trying to unify the entire country. He's got ninjas. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. He's got ninjas.
What's your asshole?
The fuck?
It would not have been crazy or unheard of for Yasuke to have been like executed on the spot for causing this big spectacle, right?
Right.
Adding to probably Yasuke's stress is that, again, he's going to see the fucking de facto ruler of Japan right now. And when he gets there, his fucking main hall is full of people there for an audience with Nobunaga. And as soon as Yasuke and the priest walk in, everyone's dismissed.
Yeah, everybody out.
Geez. Everybody get out of here.
Party's over.
Probably also pretty fucking stressful.
That's a lot of stuff.
So they're standing there. There's just Nobunaga at the head of the room, his retainers, whichever ones are there, sort of on either side. His sons are there. I think he calls for his sons at some point, but just a handful of people there.
Does he call
with
like,
Nobunaga?
Hey boys, come look at this motherfucker.
Come look at this black guy.
God damn.
So
a tall drink of water.
Tell her I said hello.
So karate chop.
Karate chop.
So Nobunaga asks some cursory questions, which the priest fields, right? Like I said, they have a friendly, Father Organtino and Nobunaga have a friendly. By all accounts, Nobunaga is not a conventional dude. He surrounds himself with people, and he seems like he was very much like anything he found out was sort of just, he was always sort of cataloging everything. Like, like I want as much knowledge as I can get because I'm fighting to reunify this country. And so everything is a potential weapon in the arsenal. You know what I mean? So from what we can tell, Organtino and Nobunaga had a really good relationship. Nobunaga liked him. They spoke frequently. They would take walks frequently. And like, so Organtino's sort of fielding these questions and translating. He explains that Yasuke's been in Japan for 2 years and he speaks Japanese pretty well. At which point, all the focus is on Yasuke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Initially, Nobunaga thinks that Yasuke's skin is some sort of fucking prank.
Oh, like somebody painted you.
Yes.
Was that the style at the time? Was
100%.
women would like dye their teeth black and shit, right?
Yeah. Yasuke in general seems like a prank, right? What is this giant black fucking human that is nothing like I've ever seen in my life? Looks like paintings of gods and demons. Why is this standing in front of me now?
It would be like
causing a commotion in my city.
It would be like fucking meeting like a 9 foot tall person with like
blue skin.
Like blue skin.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Fucking,
You'd be like, stop. Hang on. What?
My
rational mind does not understand what I'm looking at right now.
Shaq as a Smurf.
So
Shaq if he had joined the Blue Man Group.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like I said, his size is insane to these people. In their culture,
probably more like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Gotcha.
There you go. Yeah. In their culture, a black-skinned warrior would just be some god or demon. Like I said earlier, a lot of these Buddhist and Shinto statues and artwork depict the gods as having jet black skin, right? The statues and the artwork. So Nobunaga has some ladies that work in his castle come and scrub Yasuke's skin in an attempt to like,
and they're all like, oh my God.
Maybe hopefully reveal that it's paint. But obviously,
like, we're gonna need to scrub him in the other room for a while.
But obviously, no matter where they scrub this dude, that's the color of his fucking skin.
I don't know what to tell you, Odu Nobunaga. Yeah. We scrubbed him here, and it just seemed like there was more to scrub.
Well, and also we kept scrubbing and scrubbing until boom,
karate chop,
smoke bomb.
Tell her I said hello.
So, and I mean, obviously, in a pre-science sort of world, Yasuke is like, this has always been the color of my skin. I don't know why. This is the color of everyone's skin where I grew up. So Nobunaga spends.
Why is everyone so fucking weird about this? I feel like that is still the experience for most black people. Why is this such a big deal?
Can't you just shut up about it?
I think we just found our next episode.
Interview with a black man.
Chapter 1.
Chapter 1. What's the big deal?
What's the deal with people obsessing?
Jesus.
So Nobunaga spends the next few hours grilling Yasuke on everything he can in the view of his court. Several of his courtiers kind of were questioning as well, right? Now they know that Yasuke could speak Japanese.
Is it courtier?
So
I think I've only ever read that word.
Mm-hmm.
Courtier? It sounds like a perfume.
Courtier?
Courtier. What are you wearing? Courtier. Courtier by Sauvage.
By Dior.
It's available at Macy's.
Available at Macy's.
Jean-Paul Courtier.
So they're asking him, where he's from, what life was like, what did he do for warrior training, where he's traveled, what he did in those places, battles he fought, how he ended up in Japan, everything in between, right?
Just to fill him out.
And like I said, Nobunaga is a smart guy, and a lot of this is probably for intel purposes, right? Yasuke is also a smart guy, and he's a worldly guy. In 2 years in Japan, he knows exactly how to comport himself in the presence of this man who is essentially the shogun of Japan, right? He understands that how well or poorly he does on this test that's going to be reflected on how well or poorly Valignano is received, and that is the mission after all, right?
So these guys are both getting intel at the same time.
Well, I mean, and Yasuke knows that this is like, if he fucks this up, He could die at the hands of Nobunaga. He
He's
could just fuck up.
Hung upside down and skinned or some shit.
He could
some bad stuff.
Crazy Japanese shit.
He could just fuck up Valignano's mission if he doesn't really do the right things and take the right steps and sort of be, So everybody's kind of guarded here, right? As to where Yasuke is from, Nobunaga produces something to help Yasuke show him that very few people at this point have ever fucking seen. Very few people in the world, not just Japan, right? In fact, most of the people in Nobunaga's court, his courtiers, haven't seen this fucking thing. Gifted to Nobunaga by Father Organtino, he pulls out a globe.
Ooh,
he's got a globe.
Was it flat?
No. Everyone's like, what?
He's got a globe, and everyone's like, what is that? Including Yasuke, right?
Right. Yasuke takes it. He starts spinning it around on his finger.
In the 1500s, a globe is a fucking rarity.
Does the sky hook afterwards?
Yeah. Is that a Kareem joke?
Jeez.
One of the Japanese guys just starts going.
I was just thinking. He
goes to pass it past Nobunaga's head, but it's still in his hand. It's still in his hand. He puts it in his shirt and spins it around.
And then threw a bucket of water on him.
Nobunaga's still trying to scrub his skin. He's like, no, I don't believe you.
There's a joke in there somewhere where somebody like calls Meadowlark Lemon's like grandfather or something. Wow. It's like, it's your cousin.
Like a Back to the Future thing. Exactly. You know those moves you were looking for? I think I found them.
Listen to this. Fuck.
So
he's sliding on the floor now.
Oh my god!
I'm pretty stoked about making a Meadowlark Lemon reference in this episode.
That's
I'm glad
impressive.
You did.
That's a fun tie-in.
So Nobunaga,
I've seen the Harlem Globetrotters. Okay.
Yeah. I think I have too.
It's an exhibition match in
think.
Harlem.
I think I saw him in New Orleans.
You think?
I think I did when I was a kid in New Orleans.
You have to remember.
I don't have to because I don't.
I don't have
but
to
I have active memories of see. So yes, I did. I did see them. I just hadn't thought about it in literally probably fucking 30 years.
I escorted a third grade class in Harlem to a Globetrotters exhibition.
Nice.
It was pretty cool. Pretty fucking cool.
So like I said, Nobunaga brings this globe to Yasuke, and he asks Yasuke to show the court where he was born. Right. This is toward the end.
And even Yasuke's like, the fuck is this thing?
Well, this is toward the end of the This is toward the end of the questioning. So they've heard Yasuke's stories. They've heard him sort of talk about, where he's gone, where he's been, what he's done, yada, 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 right? So Yasuke has, to your point, never fucking held a globe before in his life. We don't even know if he's ever seen a globe. So he doesn't really know exactly where he came from because globes and maps and stuff, that's navigator shit. That's not Yasuke shit. You know what I mean? Like those things at that time were very much just for the eyes of navigators.
Right.
Nobunaga seems to think that Yasuke came from India, knowing about like sort of the dark-skinned Indian natives and knowing that Yasuke fought there. And Yasuke's like, no, it's not there. It's somewhere else. I'm not sure exactly where, but at some point, Father Organtino interjects. He sees this going on and he decides to lend a bit of expertise. Again, he was the one who gifted that globe to Nobunaga, and he's seeing globes and maps, and he's had a formal education on these things. So he points to the continent of Africa and says, you're from somewhere, on the East Coast. He's like, you're from somewhere around here, which has got to be an insanely cathartic moment for Yasuke.
Right. He's like, oh, shit.
Right? Like to look at this globe to hold a globe for the first time, maybe look at a globe for the first time and know exactly where I'm from this.
Right.
I'm from here.
Yeah.
And after all his travels.
That's got to be
exactly.
a wild
I'm from
moment.
Here, I'm this far. I'm all the fucking way over here.
Yeah.
Like a quarter of the planet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hell of an Uber ride.
Yeah. Right.
And so again, to that point, there's a moment as the story goes where Nobunaga held the globe sort of like slowly spinning it back and forth between Africa and Japan in like awe of how far this man has traveled to end up in his court. Right. Which I would imagine, even for the most important man in Japan, has got to be a fucking humbling feeling too.
Right. Yeah.
To be like, holy shit.
I mean, we're still
I'm not the center of the universe.
This man's probably never left Japan. Right. So if he has, it's been to like across the fucking strait to Korea.
Think
you know
of,
what I mean?
You know,
Like just
all
something.
all this power I hold, as important as I am, all these thousands of people that like bow to me, and like
How many people?
I haven't traveled anything like what this guy's.
And
done.
how many
They
people
have no
are
idea
there?
who I am.
Right.
Yeah.
How many people are there from here to there too?
Yeah.
Like, that's got to be a wild. Like, okay, wow. Eventually, this
the other guy comes in and goes, "I'm from Portugal. I'm from Portugal. Look at how far this is. Look at."
I'm a father Argentino. I'm an Italian. So, eventually, this intel meeting sort of devolves into an actual party, right? Nobunaga's initial curiosity for Yasuke seems
like a party. Like, all right, let it flow. Let's go.
His initial curiosity turns into like fascination. The more questions he asks, the more answers he receives. He fucking likes Yasuke. Like he's like,
this guy's
this
cool
dude
shit.
kind of fucking rules.
Most of us are.
Here's this giant man.
I feel like there's some sort of like a cultural charm or like an overall just sort of like a cool feeling that enters
I
the
don't
room.
know the word.
I don't know how to say it. It feels kind of like,
but when you're around, I feel like everything's kind of more impressive, and I want to like do things with you that make me look impressive. What is there a word?
What
for
is that you're wearing? Where can I get that?
Tell her I said hello.
Why are you holding that?
I'll say, oh yeah, it's a party. Drop the beat.
Oh.
Chapter 4.
The first
the
twerk.
party.
That was the first twerk, right?
The girl's like, hey.
So like I said, he likes Yasuke. Here's this giant man painted like the gods and demons, a thing that Nobunaga probably doesn't even believe in, but here it is in fucking front of you.
And he's talking to me.
Like if I meet a person with giant angel wings, I'm gonna be like, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, like, even if you've like strayed from the original like faith that you had when you were a child or something, or like you've gotten all this power and you're like, yeah, it's probably all bullshit, whatever. At a certain point, if something pops up and you like remember it from like your whole life, like, oh fuck.
Yeah, what is this crazy fucking shit going on, right?
Can I have wishes?
Exactly.
So yeah, here's this giant man painted like, gods and demons.
I bet you also his fucking Nobunaga's thought is like, if he's with me, people will think
that.
Okay.
Also, yes, I was getting to that. So
sorry, I didn't interrupt your research.
No, you're good. He's also a proven warrior. He's got a fucking interesting, strong, well-traveled, well-spoken dude here. And Nobunaga was also, by the way, impressed that Yasuke has learned not a small amount of Japanese. Unlike most of the Jesuits that are there, just rely on translators. They never fucking bothered learning Japanese.
Right, it's like an impressive character.
Yeah.
Sounds like the ultimate trait.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, not like Valignano writes about the Japanese language and talks about how it's the most impressive language.
He
literally says it's the most impressive. Well, it's not a tonal language. What do they call it? It's a pitch accent language. So there are things that are spelled the same way, like hashi, right? Hashi means bridge. It means chopsticks. The pitch the pitch that you put on it on a specific accent in the word changes the name, changes what you mean. That changes your meaning.
Like the word motherfucker.
Exactly.
You're like, motherfucker. Like,
motherfucker.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
Totally different words.
Neither
of which mean.
I was going to say bitch, but I see what
same
you're
deal.
going
Same
with.
deal. Like, bitch.
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 Bitch. Like totally different context.
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
Yeah. So he's very impressed with Yasuke from all accounts that we can see. Right. Famously, during this ensuing party, someone said that Yasuke had the strength of 2 men. And Nobunaga instructed some of the young serving ladies to come in so Yasuke could lift them up. According to the story.
And they're like, oh my God.
According to the story, he picks up both of these, giggling little servant girls, balanced one on each arm, and raised his arms into like your classic heroes pose.
Like, dun, 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 dun.
Like, boom. Like, fucking, I'm flexing, bitch.
Yeah, baby.
So... apparently also they had such a good time drinking sake and telling stories that one of Nobunaga's retainers, I think it was like his nephew or something like that, gave Yasuke a bunch of fucking money to take home. He's just like, here. Back then they had the copper coins on the string with the square in the middle with the string through them. He gave him like fucking 8 strings of like 10 copper coins a piece By the way, these all weigh like 8 to 10 pounds.
Yeah, you're cool as hell. Take all his money.
Here, take 80 pounds worth of shit or worth of fucking money, dude. Have fun.
I would love one day to be wealthy enough if like I meet somebody I just like them a lot. Like, hey, you know what? Here's $5,000.
Yeah, right.
You're cool.
I can't wait for you to get to that point.
Right?
So anyway, party's over. A day or two later, Valignano is summoned to meet Nobunaga.
This
right?
sounds like a legit party too. I just love the idea that one black person goes to the entire fucking country of Japan and by power of being black is like partying with the emperor in like a couple of days. That's great. I know it took over a year.
Emperor's a different guy.
I know it took over a year, but like,
it took 2, but yeah.
Not so surprising.
No, it's not even surprising. It's like, hey, come on in. Where are you from? That's crazy. Hey, let's get some drinks in here.
Let's get some drinks and some girls. Lift them up.
Hey.
Go. Lift them up. Have fun. Both of them. Lift both of them up. Like I said, party's over. Valignano comes a couple days later to meet with Nobunaga. By this point, he's gotten the rundown on how that first meeting with Yasuke went, and he's probably feeling pretty fucking good about his prospects, right? He brings gifts, unlike Yasuke. He shows up. He brought a big, like, upholstered, like velvet upholstered armchair, like a fucking throne, basically. He gives that to him. He gives him some other bits and baubles. He also, in exchange for protection from Nobunaga says, okay, you can build a monastery here. Mm-hmm. You can build more stuff here. The Jesuits can operate here under my protection, right? So in exchange for protection from Nobunaga to operate in Japan, he offers Yasuke.
The ultimate trade.
Solid.
Now, I don't know the details of this exchange. I don't know if Yasuke was informed beforehand and he agreed to it. He's not a slave, right?
Right, yeah.
He's a free man who works for money. We're also operating at a time and place where offending someone's honor is a big fucking deal, right? We don't know if Nobunaga asked or if Valignano just offered.
Right.
We don't know, like I said, if Yasuke knew ahead of time. So we don't know a lot of the things, but either way, Nobunaga is all fucking about it, and Yasuke is now part of Nobunaga's court.
Well, Nobunaga was wise enough to know that, like,
he's special. I can't say no.
Yeah, like fucking cool. But also, you have to know, like, the one thing that will raise your estimation in the eyes of the people more than anything else
is a god.
Black friend.
Hell yeah!
Like I said, everything that
now you see why I'm on this podcast today.
My wife can't listen to this episode.
Everyone, Riley's wife is a person of color also.
This is Riley and Patrick's attempt to increase ratings. That's why I'm here today.
No, then why did we have you on the 4th episode? We were getting like 2 downloads a week back then.
See, it's just like Yasuke.
So we also, like I said earlier, with Nobunaga, every bit of intel he gets, everything is a tool in the arsenal, right?
Uh-huh.
You want to look like more of a unifier, like more of a badass, like more of the guy that, like, I have the fucking shit on lock. Get yourself a fucking 6'2" God man
just walking
standing next to you.
Yeah.
Not next to you, behind you.
Yeah. Backing you up. That's
you know, that, like,
but you know,
cover my 6.
A little bit, just like to the right, just a little bit behind.
Yeah. On my shoulder.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like I said, we don't know exactly, but Valignano is now operating with the permission and protection of Nobunaga. His plans already at this point don't involve being in Japan for much longer, right? He's fulfilled the mission, right? He got the golden goose.
Right, yeah, good to go.
So he's already planning to make his way back to Portugal in the near future. So he doesn't necessarily need this big imposing bodyguard in, the noble circles of the civilized world.
Plus, I can possibly get some more, right?
Right, yeah, there seem to be a lot of them out there.
Oh, Jesus.
No, but like there's a good possibility that what's his name? Italian guy.
Valignano?
There's a good chance that when Valignano was coming to Japan with Yasuke, he was like, this is going to be an excellent trade eventually.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
The ultimate trade.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe he didn't think he was going to get all the way to Nobunaga to do it, but he's like, when it comes in clutch, like, this is going to be a great guy that I could be like, hey, why don't you take my guy?
I mean, that would involve having to know a lot of things in advance, but I mean, doesn't hurt to have a guy that's worth something on the asset, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't know how he's going to be received by the Japanese. He doesn't know a lot of things.
Well,
but
a hired bodyguard too is an expendable character. This
absolutely.
Is somebody that
I think as soon as he found out how much Nobunaga seemed to like him, then he was
like, "Oh, this is gonna clinch the deal."
Right. Yeah, now I've sealed the
deal.
deal.
You
like the guy? You want the guy? I can have the guy come work for you.
Was Yasuke gonna be like, "Oh no, thank you. No, I don't want to be like fucking protector of like the Grand Emperor of a country."
He's very fortunate that he didn't say that, because what happens moving forward is mostly good for Yasuke.
This guy's still only like 24 years old.
That's awesome. Like, fuck. That's awesome.
Yeah. So Yasuke is now part of the court. Immediately, there's a huge difference in how Yasuke is treated, right? During this fair in Kyoto that I mentioned, on the last day, there was like a big equestrian parade with like your standard tricks and archery and dumb horse shit, right? Yasuke rode out on a horse next to Nobunaga's courtiers and sons, right? After the fair, when they depart Nobunaga's castle in Kyoto to go to his actual home province, his castle, that's not far away. It's called Azuchi. Yasuke is on horseback side by side with Nobunaga, right? Oh. This is a man who went from child slave to free warrior to paid bodyguard for a high-profile Jesuit priest, which would have, involved whatever humility you have to show, walk behind me type shit, to whatever this is, like where are we going with this? Are we going to fuck? Like what's happening? So when they get to Azuchi Castle, he's not really given a role, right? He's staying in like a common house with a lot of the men who don't have their own homes. It's sort of like a big bunk house, basically. He's staying in a common room with like 8-9 other guys, all sort of sleeping on, the standard like Japanese futons that they sleep on.
Right. Low pallets.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't really know what's going on. Like he notices, like he's staying in this guardhouse. He's seeing the changing of the guards several times a night. No one really says shit to him. He offers to like take guard, and they're like, "No, you're fine." So, and obviously it's not his decision to make. So he just kind of sits around wondering what this new lord, who he apparently works for, or maybe is a slave again for, he doesn't fucking know. Mm-hmm. What am I going to get tasked with, right?
That's interesting, coming after like pretty dizzying height of like riding alongside this guy.
Right. So he's kind of forgotten about for a couple weeks at this point. He does
fucking doing swordplay in the rain.
Yeah, montage, absolutely. He is
meditating.
He does get his own room in the guardhouse, so he's at least got some privacy. But there's still no word on what his role is here, right? Valignano is actually in Azuchi as well, overseeing the church. That's where he wanted to build a church in Azuchi, which is Nobunaga's home, like I said, his home province, his hometown where his castle is. So he's overseeing the church seminary combo that Nobunaga has okayed to be built in the city surrounding the castle grounds. But as far as we know, there was never any communication between them. Yasuke's pretty much just hanging out, exploring the castle, wondering why he's here. I guess it's kind of his first vacation.
Yeah, like take a break for a while.
Yeah.
Eat some rice, drink some sake.
He is finally given an assignment. He's a bodyguard.
Tight.
No kidding.
A little different than with Valignano, though, right? When he was employed with Valignano, he was to be close by, armed, intimidating. With Nobunaga, the job was effectively the same, sort of overseeing meetings with guests of the castle, but he's also expected to participate. He's not supposed to just stand there and be quiet. Like,
oh, shit.
Like,
he's an anomaly.
Yeah, Nobunaga wants him to tell stories and entertain and engage and interact, right? He was dressed in Japanese clothing, traditional, with the the pants and the thing with the vest over it, like your traditional Japanese garb. There you go. Thank you. He is given his old weapons back, and he's basically there as a reflection of his new boss, right? He's interesting and mysterious, and having this crazy anomaly, like you said, in Japan, made Nobunaga either look like an insane person or made him look like a much more worldly and accepting than most of his contemporaries, right?
Well, I would say definitely if you have like somebody who's that conversational and cool and like knowledgeable, like that makes you look great.
Well, but I mean, the perception,
awesome.
The perception's always on who's seeing this, right? So some of these lords are probably like, he's fucking crazy. And some of them are like, oh, that's kind of cool. Either way, for someone as smart as Nobunaga, that's a good thing, right? Because
the mysterious element
if you
of it.
If you think that I'm a fucking idiot, I'm a fool,
You ain't gonna mess with me.
Then if you're gonna mess with me, you're gonna show your heart. You're gonna think that I'm a fucking idiot, and you're gonna show your cards, and then I'm gonna fucking decimate you.
Yeah, and if you want to show him to this giant motherfucker,
yeah,
like, cool.
And if you see him and you go, oh, that's cool. This is something that's good for us or whatever. Then that just shows like, okay, I know who's on board, right? So either way, it's
it's brilliant.
It's good to
either of those reactions Nobunaga can use in his favor, right?
I think it would be
It
good.
takes my adversary off their game.
Right.
On one hand, you've got the idea of this like really charming and intelligent worldly person that you could converse with and like hear stories from and like maybe like share a laugh with even.
Right.
And on the other hand, if you're not comfortable with that, you have the biggest person in the country with a sword in his hand right there in front of you.
And a spear and a dagger.
Yeah, a spear and a dagger,
yeah.
And he looks oddly godlike.
So, and it stands a foot plus taller than me.
Jeez.
So, like I said, so he's a bodyguard, but I'm in Yasuke's mind, like he'll probably never need to defend Nobunaga. Nobunaga is a more than fucking capable warrior. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But his presence is weird enough to be a pretty wild deterrent. Yasuke's a smart man too. So chances are he knew what his role was in this like little political game.
Mm.
Right. And we know for a fact that Nobunaga enjoyed his interactions with Yasuke as much, if not more, than he enjoyed sort of showing him off. Right. Yasuke really recognizes that this man knows much more about the world than he does. He's probably seen enough political back and forth to be able to speak on that too. He's a more seasoned fighter than most of Nobunaga's men. Certainly like the young samurai in Azuchi, as most of the more skilled and respected samurai serving Nobunaga would have like lands. They'd have like fiefs and vassals and, their own shit to govern. Right. So most of who's in Azuchi with Nobunaga are younger up and coming samurai. So Yasuke's got more battle experience than these guys. As far as we can tell, Nobunaga was as much in awe of Yasuke as anyone else and like seriously respected his company and his opinions.
That is
good.
That's like a sincerely like wise
100%
rule or move.
100%.
Like, this is not only is this like a dangerous guy that I can have my back, which is great.
This guy knows things about shit that I've never seen.
What an incredible opportunity for advisor, especially in the age of like, international trade. Especially someone who has been internationally traded.
Yeah,
how could you have more of an inside view?
Right. And so, so the more time he spends in Nobunaga's court, the more Nobunaga starts taking Yasuke everywhere with him. And there's like stories about like they would walk in the garden together every day and just talk. And like anywhere Nobunaga went, Yasuke was on the horse right there with him.
Just like Tom Cruise and
he's an encyclopedia.
Ken Watanabe.
This is his own little encyclopedia.
Yeah. So, technically he's a weapon bearer, but unlike the previous weapon bearers who were typically, you just be summoned and dismissed, and there was no conversation. It was, you ran up with the sword and you went, and then you turned around and you ran away. Like this is a very different thing. Nobunaga and Yasuke are frequently sharing stories, tactical plans for defending the land from invaders.
Which he would be uniquely suited for, having been like combat hardened in multiple continents.
A lot of back and forth, analyzing.
Different, in general, just like different terrain, different people, different modes of tactic. Like,
different weapons, different,
And
you'd be like, listen, I saw these guys pull this battle in fucking, Northern Africa 4 or 5 years ago. This is a tactic we could use for this. Yeah.
Right. So, and just back and forth on analyzing and like improving as warriors based on each man's expertise, because there are certainly things that Nobunaga knows specific to Japanese warfare that Yasuke can't know. He's been there for not even 3 years yet.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of tactics and stuff that Yasuke knows that Nobunaga's never seen.
Also, large scale siege warfare is a way different world, especially in Japan. They kind of invented like fucking left, right flank siege warfare, especially in that part of the world, because everyone was a specialist.
Yeah.
Everyone in the army is a fucking specialist. So it's not like they're just throwing regular infantry. It's like any one person is ultra dangerous.
Yeah. So very quickly, Yasuke goes from being basically an ornament to a useful ally, like fully inside Nobunaga's inner circle, which is weird for Japanese culture.
Yeah.
At this time.
The fact that it happened so quickly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very quickly.
Yeah, like that. But then, I mean, it's not as though you're going to come across one of these guys every day. Yasuke is like a particular character, like this level of experience.
He was so endeared to Yasuke, and here's where we really get to the guts of it. Within 2 months, Nobunaga has a house built for Yasuke, specially built for him with high ceilings, high doorways.
Oh, shit.
He has a house built for him in sort of the inner circle of the castle, like just a little walk away, and down a little thing. They're going for like their morning walk, and Nobunaga just kind of says, "Come with me," and they walk, and they kind of go like a different path, and Nobunaga turns down, this little path, and they walk up on this house, and they walk inside, and Yasuke notices, well, this is bigger, so ceilings are higher. I didn't have to duck to walk through the door, and they're standing there, and Nobunaga tells him, "This is yours. This is your house." He also walks to the other side of the room, and he takes out a katana that he had specially made for him.
Blade.
He made a short sword for Yasuke, right? And he says to him, "You are now my samurai."
Wow.
Quote, "You are my black warrior, the demon who will ride beside me into battle, the dark angel who protects me and my family up in my home. The sword is a symbol of this. You are my samurai, now a member of the Oda clan."
Ooh, I just got a little tingly.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's good.
That's awesome.
Now, just for brevity's sake,
black demon that rides beside me.
That's badass.
Hell yeah, I'm going to use that.
Hell
That's
yeah.
badass.
I'm going to use that.
Just for the
That's
sake,
how we should have addressed Jevon at the beginning of
my
the
black
show.
demon who rides beside me into battle.
Maybe we can turn it back.
I liked Chocolate Samurai, but fine.
We'll go with option 1.
So, just for the sake of brevity here, right? I want to take a moment to really take this shit apart, right?
Yeah.
First of all, this was an interaction between only Yasuke and Nobunaga. There was nobody else. There was no big fanfare, right? This wouldn't have been a move if Nobunaga was thinking from terms of I want to look like this big benevolent ruler, right? Then he would have had his courtiers there. He would have had somebody else there. This is just Nobunaga and Yasuke.
He became a real friend.
This is also not normal behavior in Japan at all. Certainly not in this era. To just have this sort of heartfelt moment between men. Even now, that's not really a Japanese way of doing things, right?
Well, maybe at an elevated place where Nobunaga was, like that kind of stigma was something he could take or leave.
And I'm not claiming to be an expert here on Japanese culture, obviously. From everything that
I like Japanese shit.
From everything that I know and have personally experienced, everything that I've read, everything that I've researched, this is like A1 fucking 5-star gold medal fucking honor, right? Nobunaga cannot interact with other members of the court like this. And I think that's like kind of a large reason for how we can establish that this was a real friendship. You know what I mean? Nobunaga can always fall back on, well, he's a foreigner. He doesn't know the customs. I'm just trying to guide the boy, I think he can use that as an excuse, but I think that he sees a way that he can interact with somebody that he can't really interact with anybody else on the court.
Right.
Because of sort of these time-honored traditions of how we as Japanese men interact, and now there's this other guy where he's like, I really like this guy. Like,
yeah, he's like a man apart.
Yeah.
It's a different, he's outside of the culture, so you can be outside of the culture and dealing with him.
It's a fun way of looking at it.
The things he's doing are akin to sort of a father-son relationship. If your son didn't need guidance and was already like a battle-tested and hardened fucking military badass,
Yeah, that's how I'd
then you'd make a sword and a house for him from scratch,
right? That's how I would interact
right?
with my 6'4" black warrior son. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So, just for good measure, as a new member of the Oda clan and an inner circle samurai, right? But like, by the way, samurai are like the most respected warriors in history.
Yeah.
In the history of fucking people who are badasses.
Literally the most dangerous people that
fucking
ever lived.
samurai are
the pinnacle.
Way up there.
Yeah. Did you ever see that show, Deadliest Warrior? Where they would like,
I do remember that.
They would like pit different
yeah,
warrior
yeah.
classes in history.
Yeah.
They had like they had a samurai versus like Spartan warrior, and a samurai won out.
Absolutely. So you gotta, I mean, it's pretty fucking impressive, right? On top of all this shit, Yasuke has servants in his employ, monthly wages.
Nice.
Like, you want to talk about the absolute fucking reeling, full circle ass shit that you would be going through in your brain, right? He is, by the way, the first documented foreigner to ever receive the title samurai. The first time a non-Japanese person received the title samurai.
Pretty badass.
At least documented wise, right?
Nice.
Keep on keeping on, brother. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I'm cheering for every success.
So, like, also Yasuke doesn't understand, and we may not understand. Well, I do because I wrote all this, but you guys might not immediately understand the big deal that receiving this blade is. This is one of the highest honors, to be gifted a blade from your master, right? Much less the most important fucking daimyo in the country.
Yeah, it's not like you're going to get a higher promotion than this. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
You're made,
The
man.
story there is one higher promotion, which is
Daimyo.
your own lands, your own fief, your own vassals, your own sort of like, you're my retainer. You're still in. I'm still the daimyo, but this is yours.
That's like the one you get
and you
when
control all the
when you
economy
literally
in there.
like cut the hand off of the assassin that's charging.
Yeah.
Like,
that's really the only higher honor from where he is, right? So the story goes that Yasuke didn't really like realize the gravity of the gift until he heard that Nobunaga's own sons were so overcome with emotion when they were gifted blades from their father that they wept. So again, this brings me back to, I think,
when meaning he got the sword before.
No, the sons got the swords before.
Okay.
And then he heard the story about how, I think Nobunaga had 3 sons, right?
Gotcha.
They were so overcome with emotion that they cried, which again, Japanese sort of culture
not big
is
criers.
not a big crybaby culture. You know what I mean? Like,
Sound
this
like
was such
pussies to
an
me.
honor.
Sound like whereas he fucking gives this legendary weapon to Yasuke. He's like, hey, cool, thanks. Yeah.
House too?
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
Cool.
awesome, rad.
You know, servants.
House
These are my
too.
servants.
All right.
All right.
Cool.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Cool.
High five? First high five in history?
He invented the high five.
Yeah.
Why not? You know? But this brings me back to, I think that Nobunaga looks at Yasuke at least as someone who he'd be honored to have as a son.
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe not necessarily. Obviously, Yasuke's grown. He's battle hardened. He's all these things. I think that Nobunaga at least looks at it like, I would love to have, and he had some sons of varying degrees of
hugely elevated.
right. Yeah. I think that Nobunaga looks at him as like a very like, dude, this is awesome. Like, this guy fucking rules. Like, it's like level up, baby. So that's going to be part 1 of this. We're going to have to drop a second part because there's still a lot to go through. What do you guys, how you guys feeling?
I am overcome with emotion.
I'm gonna cry if you give me a sword.
I'll give you a sword.
I want
just
a
to see
sword.
that.
I don't like the way you said that.
You know what? I'll give you a sword.
I'll give you a sword, boy.
I want a katana so bad right now. It hurts. I just wanna put it in a glass case above my kitchen door.
Oh my God. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Again, please go online, give us a review. Tell us what you think. If you like the story, get on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those things. And let us know if you want to send us a message, deleteeverythingpodcast@gmail.com. All right? That's it. Deleteeverythingpodcast@gmail. Yeah. And our Patreon, man. Our Patreon's a lot of fun. You guys should join it. Thank you to Danielle Elizabeth. Danielle Elizabeth just joined our Patreon. She's fun. So we're, join her and everybody else. The joke on Patreon is that we only have Mike, though. We're going to keep it that way forever.
It was just Mike.
We'll keep
Mike,
it that way forever.
and also, I want to say thanks to Mike for giving us some horrifying AI artwork.
Oh, yeah, that was some cool artwork. Yeah.
And also one cool image of Henry VIII doing a kickflip with the message "Radical Dude."
Yeah, that was cool.
That was
very
good.
cool.
I liked that a lot.
All right, well, we will see you next week.
Oh, wait, hold on
part
a second.
2 of this. What?
Thing on Patreon, because I've been traveling for
you got to do
weeks. I'm going to draw this out over the course of the next month or so. But I took a fuckload of videos, and a lot of them are just me dicking around. Some of them me losing my mind because I was by myself for weeks at a time. In like Maine and Massachusetts, but I also got a lot of historical videos, and I went to, you'll notice on the Patreon right now, we got one where I visited Plymouth Rock, which was cool. And then today, I guess I'm going to drop another one that's like my experience in New York City. And then I've got so many more I'm gonna do. Eventually, this will culminate in like a 2-hour supercut movie.
Yeah.
With like some cool like
I love it.
overdubs and stuff. But I've got a bunch of more historical sites that I saw in throughout New England, and a bunch of other cool videos and some footage of me talking to a lobster for a while.
Hell yeah!
Whoa, can't wait.
All right, well, thanks, guys. We will see you next week with part 2 of this thing. Bye.
Bye.
All right,
Jevon, you got to say bye.
Oh, bye, y'all.
Karate chop.